Good morning on a Monday, kicking off the week.
Who's that?
Glad to be back. Jim Costa, John Jansen, Heather Park, Gov, and Greg behind the glass. Did you guys miss me? Don't answer that. Don't answer that.
I almost forgot what your voice sounded like.
Appreciate Stoney for getting up early last week and filling in. We have a lot to discuss today. It's a great morning to wake up. You got the Pistons and the Red Wings, both with wins yesterday, both in the playoffs. Michigan State got our first test between the two of them on Friday night. We're going to talk about all of it. But John, I got some stories.
Oh, man, I can't wait to hear about your vacation.
I come bearing gifts.
Oh, do you?
End of the show. We'll open this.
Some beach sand. What do we?
Oh yes. Here's a shell for you.
Ooh,
Yes.
I don't know.
You can hear the ocean.
Yeah.
But it sounds like I picked a good week to miss. It sounds like it was cold, snowy, miserable.
No, it was fine.
Oh, you're Mr. Tough Guy. I know.
It was cold. It was a good week.
Chilly.
To miss.
We only had one really cold day. The rest of the days were a little chilly. But, thank you for bringing back some warmer weather. We are starting to watch the snow melt.
It's beautiful.
It sounds like we might get a little drizzle or rain tomorrow, which will help the snow melt. And spring is right around the corner. Tigers took the field. We got a chance to see them visually yesterday. So, yeah, spring is sprung. But what was the highlight of your vacation?
So I would say we did an excursion day, and I was swimming with stingrays.
Okay.
John?
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that your highlight wasn't USA versus Canada.
Me too.
I was a little cautious because and I defended you all week long to everybody that would come up and be like, "Do you believe Costa is watching the game?" I'm like, "Yes,
guys.
Your wife is a hockey fan.
When you're on vacation, you do things you like. I like watching hockey, and I'll tell you this: watching it from a beach bar."
Yeah.
Awesome. We had some Canadians there as well, so there's a little trash talk, although Canadians don't really talk trash. Oh, so sorry. Sorry we were booing the anthem. It's a true story. But it was great. I got to play some Canadians in cornhole. We represented USA and beat them.
Right.
They were from Guelph in Ontario, and we made sure to represent.
Guelph? How do you spell that?
They have like a minor league hockey team. Anyway, we represented USA, won the cornhole. But the stingrays, John, people get a little weird about stingrays because
Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dead.
Yes, John, he is dead.
Stingray, got him right in the heart.
And I did not look up that event until afterwards. I didn't want to put that in my mind and spook myself. These stingrays are used to people. So the story goes at the Cayman Islands that the Stingray City is what it's called. They'd come up to the people because they got friendly with the fishermen years and years ago, and they're used to tourists. So they actually want the attention. They want to brush up against you. They like when you hold them.
Still a wild animal.
But they don't have any incidents. And it was pretty cool, dude.
Yeah.
It was cool.
How many were around you as you're standing in the water?
So if you go to Stingray City, I've heard it can be overwhelming. We were on a separate sandbar, and there were 3 or 4.
Okay.
And I'm holding up the stingray.
Sure.
They tell you keep it in the water though, because if its eyes come above the water, then it can't breathe, and then it will try to swim around. But even then, it's not going to sting you. They really will only do that on a shark.
Again, it only takes one.
The Steve Irwin thing, I did look up after the fact, was a fluke. Like, he was in some deeper water. He wasn't paying attention. They snuck up on the stingray. They thought he was a shark, so it stung him, and he passed away. But they have not had incidents there.
Oh, is that what the stingray said? Oh, I thought he was a shark? Again, we don't know the answer to that question. We make grand assessments.
So you wouldn't swim with them, Mr. Tough Guy?
No, I don't do saltwater.
Oh.
I'll swim in the nastiest of fresh water, and I've had snakes around. I don't care freshwater because chances are a big pike is not going to take a bite out of you.
So you wouldn't any salt water?
No.
Snorkeling?
No.
Really?
No, it's been a long, long time. And it's not something that I care to do, want to do. No. I will go knee deep, waist deep in the waves.
Okay.
But I'm not going
from the beach.
Yeah, from the beach. I'll wade in.
Yeah, but you're not going shoulders deep.
No, things can eat you out there.
Heather, you don't have this aversion to saltwater.
I do not. I would totally do that. I like animals, wildlife.
Oh, I love animals. They all taste good, but no. When I'm in their environment, when they're in my environment, I have the advantage. At least I have the advantage to run away or trip somebody else that is not quite as quickly.
It'd be different if it was like massive sharks or something, but like stingray.
Oh, I wouldn't go into the ocean with
Stingray
sharks.
are fine.
I know, John, you're saying
you
that
were in the ocean.
they're right around the corner.
Right.
They do this all day, all the time. These are experts, and I had a great time. It was stingrays.
Cool.
We did snorkeling. They do starfish, which was kind of boring, but it's part of the trip. And then the end of the trip, I think your kids would love this. It's called Bioluminescent Bay. So when Hurricane Ivan hit, it rearranged some of the shoreline, and it pushed in all these, they call them phytoplankton. They're light up.
Yeah.
So
I saw that in Moana.
Yeah, so so it is out of a Disney movie. But they take you out at the end of the night, post dinner, it's like pitch black.
Yeah.
And you just lay there, and if you snap your fingers, it'll light up. If you move your arms, the water will light up around your arms and your legs, and
That's cool.
Super
That's really
cool.
Yeah. That
Very
is
cool.
really cool. I've heard about that, and I've seen pictures, but obviously I've never been in that situation, but it sounds like it would be amazing.
So that day was probably the highlight. The rest of it was recharging, resting. I'm not someone who relaxes very well, but just trying to sit and sleep in a little bit and recharge the batteries. So I am raring to go today.
It doesn't look like you're one to lay out because you didn't bring a tan home.
This is a tan, kind of.
Yeah, you're still pasty white.
You should see under the shirt. It's much
No, thanks.
pastier.
Only in Heather's dreams.
Oh, no.
Okay, then.
So are you we're going to be out at the beach, but I'm going to put on a 100 SPF?
I am someone who pretty regularly applies sunscreen.
Such a dork. I understand. Yeah. We all decide which risks we want to take. I'm fine with taking a risk with the sun. I'm not fine with taking a risk with sharks,
Or
stingrays, or anything like that. So it's all a matter of risk aversion.
So one of the days I did get a little bit of a burn.
Oh, really?
A little bit of a
Yeah,
burn.
as you stick your chest out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm not.
I wasn't trying to roast.
Protect the skin. I'm all about that, but I'm surprised
that I'm not
that
tanner.
there's not
This
a
happens
little bit of
every
a tan.
year. I try to get away and go somewhere warm, and I come back and everybody says, "You're not that tan. You didn't get enough of a tan." I know I'm pasty. I know I'm pale, but I had a great time. And the other thing I would just throw in from the trip, they have blue iguanas there too. The only place in the world with blue iguanas, John.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now they have a bunch of green iguanas to the point where they're actually like paying people to like kill them off because they're overrunning the population.
Oh my gosh.
But the blue iguanas are like, I don't think they're they're not invasive. I don't think they're endangered, but they are in like short supply. So they're repopulating the blue iguanas, which are pretty cool to see too.
That's
So,
cool. Did you get any pictures?
Yeah, I can show you a couple
Okay.
pictures. But yeah, the wildlife was cool. The resting was cool. Watching USA Canada, yes, was fun. At least the Saturday version, not the finale version.
Yeah. Thursday night was a great game. Didn't end the way we wanted it to, but it was a great game.
So I'm curious what I missed, and we can talk more about that before we dive into Red Wings after the news and Pistons top of the hour. But last week, Stoney's in, and there's always a Stoney story or two. I did see nearly a 2 Grand Slam winner.
Oh, so close.
How
9
close is this
right.
guy?
Oh, this is what I was trying to remind you. Like, what were we talking about where I said, don't say anything else. We want to tell you on air. It was Tuesday, and he got 9.5
Yeah.
What do you mean a half?
out of 10. So it was, what is the mascot of Ohio University?
The Bobcats.
The Bobcats, right?
Yeah.
He said the Wildcats. And you could tell, like, right after it, he knew something was off. So he said Wildcats, and it's obviously the Bobcats.
Yeah.
So he missed out, and he was rolling. He ended, I don't think he actually passed on any of them. I think he was
he did
rolling
great.
right through it, and there were probably, I don't know, 10, I'm estimation of maybe 10, 12 seconds remaining when he was done.
so he had time to spare.
And as soon as he said the last one, there were some tough ones in there. I don't remember exactly what they were. As soon as he ended the last one, it was a major show groan from everyone involved.
Because all I saw was, and I occasionally check my phone and see what's going on. I saw a tweet from the show account, and it said, "Congrats to so-and-so for $225 in the 2 Grand Slam." I go, he was one away.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was half away.
He was half away.
He was a half a
And
word away.
We were so hoping it would happen while you were gone.
so that it could be my fault.
Yes.
Welcome back. I will give you guys your gifts at the end of the show, but I want to hear more of what I missed coming up next. 248-539-9797. It's 97.1. All right, guys, it's a new year, and we're talking about your smile. If you've been putting off seeing a dentist, now's the time to make a plan to see Brightside Dental. If you're feeling self-conscious about your smile, if you're wondering, it's been a while, I might have a bunch of cavities, at Brightside Dental, there's no judgment. 1-800-PAINLESS, BrightsideDental.com. They're not going to shame you, wag a finger. Why haven't you been flossing? They want to get you in and just take care of you. Easy to get out of that 6-month routine with your cleanings. Easy to make an appointment with Brightside. 9 Metro Detroit locations, including their newest in Trenton, Michigan. There's got to be one right around the corner, servicing brand new community in Trenton, but the same great personalized care free of judgment. 1-800-PAINLESS, BrightsideDental.com. That's Brightside Dental. No judgment, just care. Oh, sigh of relief. We'll get to the Wings coming up at 6:35 after Heather's news. Avoided a disaster for the second day in a row.
So close.
Would have been a disaster for the second day in a row if not for Patrick Kane. We'll get to the latest on the Wings. And yeah, we know about the Pistons, winners of 6 in a row.
Oh, thank you, Cade.
Cade is sizzling, as you heard right there. We'll do a little Pistons talk as well. I am back from a tropical vacation, well rested, recharged, and people have some ticket texts. I do want to hear about more of what I missed, but a texter points out that they never thought they'd listen in the morning and hear Jim as the man of the show.
Yeah.
People are surprised that you don't go in the ocean.
Well, I like to shock everyone once in a while. I'll dip my toe in. I just don't like swimming in it.
This one says you're Moana's dad. He won't go past the reef. I can't
He
believe
seemed like a badass.
Can't believe Manly Jansen. He won't go in the ocean. This one says, I thought John it wasn't cold this last week. Big tough John, but he won't go swim in the ocean? Question mark, question mark. Texter points out that Costa will mess with something from Jurassic Park in unknown waters, but you better believe he has SPF 1200 on when he does it. Someone points out that their mother was stung on the hand at Stingray City.
Oh, boy. Here, that's how it starts. First it's the hand, then it's an arm.
They show you where the stinger is. I'm not blaming this person's mom, but
You're not supposed to touch the stinger?
no, and they give you a little bit of a crash course. These stingrays want to be around people. They would leave if they didn't want to be there.
This is where to touch them. This is where not to touch them.
Yes.
It's a lesson you learn about many things in life.
This one says you have to swim with a dolphin. They pick you up and you can swim with them on your back around the pool. Heather?
Very cool. I've always wanted to swim with a dolphin. It's changed a little bit the older I get. I feel like it's kind of inhumane to swim with. I feel a little bit bad for the dolphin. I just feel like they're wild animals. Let them be wild. You don't need to be training them and letting me.
You don't want to pet them?
Yeah, I just kind of feel bad.
Thank
but
you,
I've
Flipper.
always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
In a pool versus in the wild, I think are two different things.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Not a fan of, what's it called? SeaWorld.
SeaWorld,
I don't like
yeah.
that.
No?
Well, they're stuck in this little tank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
Free
do
Willy,
somewhat agree.
right?
Yeah.
Let them go.
Did Sony say anything funny last week?
Heather's
Heather's
many
nodding her head.
things.
Yes.
Yes. We had lots of laughs. And much like when I go home and the kids say, "Hey, what did you guys talk about in the show?" I'm like, "I don't know, sports and stuff." Like Doug will say. And so when you ask, what is it that we talked about? What was funny? The only thing I can actually remember is Stoney's comparison or analogy for Javi Baez.
What was that?
It was. Well, I don't.
Wait.
I mean, I did not agree
Number
with the
two.
analogy. Yeah, it was feces.
Oh!
I didn't even want to say that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
He was
yes.
even worse than that.
Yes,
Jim.
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
I just thought he crossed the line. Look, we all know he sucks. Okay, do we have to go that far?
Yeah, I mean, I think the analogy was that he stinks, and he just took it to that next level of
little
something that
A
stinks.
little more graphic.
Yes.
Yes.
Tom, you told me we had to wait for the air for this, but John got crushed for something?
I've never seen John get
Yeah.
beat down by ticket texters more than this on anything since we've worked together.
Yeah.
And it was the fact that he has his parking spot, his
Unofficial. Official.
at work.
He does. It's right over there.
Yeah. Thank
And,
you. Thank you. Acknowledgement.
First off,
And
that
he
guy
backs in every day.
that kind of got lukewarm response. He was getting criticized for that. But then he said, if somebody's in his spot, he will park close to them,
Oh, yeah.
almost to where they can't get out.
What?
And
Just to
he got
make it aware.
crucified. It was crazy.
So,
I know where I'm parking tomorrow.
He showed a character war here. And
oh,
they
trust
attacked.
me. Yeah, I will just park on top of yours. It won't matter. Yeah. First of all, you'd have to be here first.
Oh, wow. Shots fired.
I mean, I could sleep in if you want to be here first.
So he got crushed for this.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen him attacked like this in my life.
It's all right. Hey, you're not going to like everything about me. Trust
No,
me.
exactly. You're not doing your job
Yeah.
if everybody always likes what you're doing.
Yeah.
Did the Four Nations stuff go well? Like I thought that was great from afar. I don't know, like the buzz here locally. Did people really get into it?
Oh yeah, everybody was really into it, and it was coming out of Saturday night. Obviously, everybody had become hated the Kachucks because they played on another team, and the way that they played. Now all of a sudden they're on your team, and everybody loves them. And it again, just shy of becoming national heroes for how they opened up the game against Canada. And it was highlighted by the fact that their dad did the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was, okay, I forget what the number was for the dad. It was like 9 seconds or 20 seconds into a game where he started to fight. Fastest in history, right? And then both the boys, 2 seconds in, and then 5 seconds in? So they both,
Dropped him.
Beat them to the punch, so to speak.
It was cool to see. I thought Larkin was like one of the big winners from the tournament, by the way. Working his way up from the fourth line. He's playing on the first line at the end of that closeout game.
And I saw this later in the week, and I forget where I saw it, but it was, anticipating who's going to be on the Olympic team. And the virtual locks, there were like 7 forwards, and he was one of them.
Makes sense to me.
I thought he played extremely well, especially, early on, didn't get a lot of ice time, and then...
But he earned it. He's playing with Matthews and playing at the top line at the end of that hockey game. It was awesome.
I just thought the thing
Brady
was
Tkachuk was the other one. Yeah,
never saw really everybody just sway more than people who saw this tournament on the schedule were why are you doing this? What are you interrupting the season for? Oh, you're hurting the Wings' hot streak. You're slowing them down. Why are you not putting your league on display?
And now everybody needs to do this.
Yes, it was pretty fascinating from that perspective. Hockey won.
Talk about the Wings coming up at 6:35. Let's get to Heather's news.
Well, a 19-year-old woman from Dearborn Heights was killed in a shooting that police say stemmed from a road rage incident on Friday night. So police believe the suspect cut off this victim, and then in an attempt to kind of like write down the license plate number, the victim followed the suspect, and the suspect turned down a side street. Shots were fired, and one of the bullets entered the victim's vehicle through the windshield and fatally struck the driver. There were also 2 other female passengers in the victim's Jeep. They were uninjured. Following this shooting, the Detroit Police Department said there was a barricaded gunman incident related to this. 3 people of interest were taken into custody. Sad for sure. Friday was a memorable night for Michigan center Vlad Golden, and it had nothing to do with the rivalry game and loss to Michigan State. Instead, it had everything to do with his marriage proposal that came afterward. So it was about an hour after the Wolverines fell to the Spartans. He returned to midcourt. He got down on one knee, popped the question to his girlfriend, who did say yes.
How do you feel about it?
Oh, you know how I feel about it. No, don't. No, I don't like it. I don't like athletes proposing like after a game, or I don't know. It's just not.
So in reading about it, it sounded like he was doing all the right things. He was throwing her off the scent, talking about ring fittings, some jeweler in Florida. She had been kind of nudging him for a little while here, and it seemed like he was going to do it on Saturday, is what the reports are. But to do it after a loss?
Yeah, I think that's one where you kind of you read the situation and say, you know what, I'm sure he could still do it in the Chrysler Center.
Sure,
the proposal.
Yeah.
And just do it on Saturday versus after a loss. It just call an audible, postpone it for a day. If she's going to say yes today, she'll probably say yes tomorrow.
Yep.
Who knows? I mean, good for them. Obviously, she didn't seem to mind, clearly. I mean, who knows, really? But she said yes, so whatever. I guess it's not the way I'd want to get proposed to, but that's fine. Let's see. Listen to this. NHL commentator Rob Ray couldn't stop himself from swearing live on TV after taking a puck to the face during the Buffalo Sabres victory over the New York Rangers. So it's crazy. The incident happened. It was late in the first period after the Sabres took a quick 4-0 lead. Rangers defenseman Will Borgen attempted to send the puck, to the other end of the ice. It smashed over the advertising, barrier. It's straight into the broadcasting area, and it hit Ray in the face. Left with broken glasses, like a gash over his eye and near his left nose. But the crazy thing is, he was checked out by medics, cleared, returned to the broadcasting booth, and he did eventually need to get stitches later in the game. But I do think we have some sound. Let's listen.
Wait, another one?
Oh. Yeah, right in the forehead.
Jeez.
Like, where is he sitting that he could take one?
He's between the benches.
Yeah, you'll see this. Mickey Redmond's down there sometimes.
Yeah. So this is proof, this audio, and I encourage people to actually go listen to it unedited because it is such a pure natural reaction and proof to me that I believe everybody in humanity swears at some point. When something happens like this and you just get blindsided, he just goes, aw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nobody says, aw, shoot. Seriously.
Dang it.
Drats.
Yeah.
To the face.
Yeah.
Shoot the cat.
Man,
Yeah, no.
that hurt.
Golly gee.
Golly
Yeah.
gee.
But I am a proponent of I don't think that swearing for no reason or even for like sometimes, but when in a moment like that, it actually somewhat makes you feel a little bit better, right? Yeah.
Oh, it does. There's studies that say when you swear, when you hurt yourself, it makes you feel better. It takes some of the pain away. So.
I'm glad to be, have that little justification in that because, you stub your toe in the middle of the night. Yeah, it certainly makes you feel better.
Yep.
Well, Stoney did that.
What do you do?
Stubbed his toe in the middle of the night.
He
Yes.
did.
Yes.
Blood
On blood everywhere, on fresh,
New carpet.
not white, but close to white carpet down in Florida.
Stoney.
Yeah.
I also heard he was, you guys talked about him using the facilities in front of his wife and...
Oh, yes, we had that conversation as well. Yes, it's all coming back to me now.
Okay. It's Heather with the news. Coming up next, one member of the show has some doubts about the Red Wings as a playoff team. It's next, 97.1. That was Saturday. Weak goal, weak performance. Kind of games that'll keep you out of the playoffs.
Two-goal lead in the third. Forget which sport I'm
Well,
talking
they ended
about.
up playing 4 periods with overtime, so hey, we'll get you there. But yeah, they blow a 2-goal lead, and they had the man advantage in overtime, and here's the guy out of the box, and then that's a weak goal for Talbot to give up. And then the very next day, John, they nearly did it again. Patrick Kane saves the day in overtime, avoids disaster. But one of the things you said to me today when we got in is you're starting to have some doubts.
Well, yes, having some doubts. And my doubts are somewhat clouded by my experience and the pain of last season, the frustration of last season. And some of it is also, it's trying to get over everything that's happened in the past. And when I say past, last year, but also the beginning of this year, and the frustration that the coaching change didn't happen earlier. Because if it happened earlier and the Red Wings were able to bounce back under Todd McClellan like they are now, then a game like that, where you have a 2-goal lead, but it's a tight points race, it just didn't need to be this tight. And now all of a sudden you lose one like that. And those are the moments you look back at the end of March and you're like, gosh, if we only had that game back, or if we could have just finished things off against the Wild, or whatever it is, that one, it just stung, especially because it was the first one back. And it's a tone setter. Now, they were able to obviously rebound yesterday, but it almost was a disaster yet again.
They start the game on Sunday with 3 straight goals. And you go, all right, this team got the message, the memo. We can't be throwing away games. You can't be throwing away a point here, a point there. We all learned that painful lesson a year ago, only to stumble into the same scenario 3-on-3. And look, I'm happy Kane made the play, but it just as easily could have gone the other way. I mean, hell, seconds before Kane gets his breakaway, the Ducks had an open net and didn't score. Are you guys with John? Do you have some doubts? The Wings are in right now. We're into the second half. The deadline's around the corner. Do you have doubts? 248-539-9797 with this team's ability to close out hockey games, to close out the playoffs.
Yeah, that was last night. I was sitting there and I watching a softball game, Firecrackers versus the Generals. It was a heated competition. And on my phone, for whatever reason, I couldn't get the game on ESPN Plus. It kept telling me I was out of market, and I'm like, I'm still in Metro Detroit. Anyway, so I'm following it on my phone, which is maybe the most painful way to follow a game. And okay, it was, you get the notification, 1 goal by the Wings, 2, 3, and in the span of what felt like 6 or 7 minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, this is Todd McClellan. Yes, this is the response that we wanted. You come out, you lay an egg in the first one, you lose one that you should have had, and then you get to the fourth, and even so, you get to the third. Damn, why do I keep saying that? You get to the end of the third, and you're like, okay, well, they still got a 2-goal lead, and then boom, boom, it's tied up. Oh, you got to be kidding me! It's like you're living a nightmare. And then Kane goes away with the breakaway and gets one. So it stems the tide a little bit, but it still makes me, and we want to know you as the listener, it makes me very cautious to see where this Wings team is going to go.
So I think a huge part of this is going to be, too, how they handle the deadline. It's March 7th, still a couple weeks away here. But to me, it's not a question of if they should add. It's a question of where they should add. Like, they're a playoff team, and last year they didn't do anything, and they missed by a point.
So they weren't a playoff team.
Right.
And you think this year they are a playoff team?
I do.
I think they should be.
Yes. And I think that they have to do something at the deadline. Like, John, you would agree, if they made a move at the deadline, it would calm some of your concerns.
Yes.
I don't think it's a question of if they should add, though. Like, I mean, what's the alternative? You're going to sit on your hands and hope to get in by the skin of your teeth again? Or you help these guys in this locker room. You make a move to make yourself even just a little bit better. I think there's a couple areas they could improve. I mean, if it's a Band-Aid third pair defenseman or third line player, fine. I think they've got a couple goalies who are mediocre. I don't know that there's going to be a great one available, but you kick the tires there. And then I'd love to see this team get a second center. I don't know that it's going to be cheap. You're probably going to have to pay for it. But if it's a guy who's going to be here long term, like these are areas I think they should be looking to add at the deadline.
So if you were sitting down with Steve Yzerman and he said we're only going to be able to add one,
I'd add a second
center versus a goalie.
I don't know that there is a goalie.
Well, and I know the goalie topic is kind of a little bit cautious because what we believe is to come.
Yeah, we think Kosa's maybe a year or so away. Look, they don't have a second center. Larkin's shouldering a lot in that first line. Kopp is hurt right now, and let's be honest, is not a second center. I'd love to bump him down when healthy to the third or the fourth and have a true second center on this team. That to me is the biggest need, but that doesn't mean they couldn't Band-Aid it up with a defenseman or, a depth body. I think they do owe it to the guys in this locker room to be a little more urgent. Like Yzerman was not urgent in the offseason. It was a lot of, reshuffling and cycling through. They kept Lalone. They waited on Lalone. How about a little proactive urgency at the deadline? If they're in this thing, they got a couple big games with Columbus this week, but they're on the bubble. They're in right now. It's not should they add. It's you should add at the deadline here. And then I think it would make you feel a little bit better about this hockey team right now.
Yeah, for me, if there was a better answer in goal, and again, I don't know that there is a better answer in goal for what this team needs now, as well as what is going to be here in the next couple of years. And it doesn't mean you can't. Obviously, you're going to need two goalies.
Yep.
But when I look at what this team is, and if you only look at it with Todd McLellan, offense isn't their big issue. It's more defense. They're able to score. And would we like to add everywhere? Sure. That's not real. But I would like to add somebody on the third level of defense so that when they do get into the third period, they don't lose some of these leads that they're able to build up. And even when you look at the losses that they've had with Todd McLellan as coach, all right, yeah, they haven't been able to score in that the 4-game road trip where they won at Florida on the first one, but then it was one goal, and they were all losses. It was they gave up 5, they gave up 4, and then at Philly it was a 2-goal overtime loss. But
so they've had the 2 7-game win streaks with McLellan. The first one was all offense. The second one, they did have a little bit of a defensive backbone there. I think Johansson's helped a lot, but he is ultimately still a rookie. Look, they could even add a second pair of defensemen and bump the rookie back down to the third pair.
Sure.
I mean, like there are areas for this team to improve at the deadline. I hope that Yzerman has a little more urgency than last year or even to start this year. Because you're right, John, it is going to come down to every point. It is going to come down to the wire right now. You should have a little nervous energy. They've got a tough schedule. And look, however you guys interpret the first 2 games out of the break, they nearly blew both. So there is some hey, you need to dig in here right now.
I do like the fact that they were very opportunistic early yesterday, right, with a couple of penalties, and they take advantage right away. But it's just frustrating that you get into the third period, and I know you and Gov were there yesterday. You were there for the entire game, and it's just what was the mood having the perspective of what happened on Saturday?
Oh, I was not comfortable 4-2. Normally you're up 4-2 in the third period, and you should feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable.
Didn't sound like you were comfortable in your seat to begin with.
Oh, God, the guy next to me's encroaching would be polite. Basically sitting in my lap. But even that guy was like, boy, they can't blow another 2-goal lead. Everybody in the building was aware of what had just happened the day before. They pull the goalie with 4 minutes, and you go, oh, boy. Hold on tight.
Yeah.
Because they're going to throw everything they have at you, and then you end up in overtime, and it really did feel like it was going south. I think you texted Tom and I.
I did.
And I said,
after they tied it up.
Yeah, of course you did. And I didn't answer until after the game.
Yeah.
Because I'm walking out.
You boys enjoying the game?
Yeah. And I go, I wasn't, and now I am. It was
a little trollish that you waited for it to get to 4-4. Nothing during the entire game.
I was a little jealous, right? Because both you guys were there. I wasn't able to go. And then, with everything falling apart in the third period, I felt like it was necessary to just see how you guys were doing, how you were managing. I figured, Tom, you were managing it a little better than Mr. Emotional Hockey Fan here.
Yeah, but look, I look at this weekend as glass half full. You got 3 out of 4 points.
Yep.
Okay, and then you were playing 2 West teams, so you weren't causing indirect harm in the standings. They gained are now in the 7th by themselves in the wild card right now.
I think they have a game in hand too.
Yeah,
Or maybe
and
not.
You look ahead. I've been looking ahead here to this weekend. There's 2 humongous games with the Blue Jackets. Not the weekend technically, completely, because they
Thursday and
host
Saturday.
Thursday
they
and
host the
Saturday,
Jackets Thursday, and they got the Ohio Stadium game on Saturday, and the Jackets are 2 behind.
They're actually, if you look at this way, the Jackets are the first team out. The team behind them is Boston, and there's talk about Boston selling at the deadline. So you really do have a chance here to separate from the pack with a good week. 2 against the Jackets, but they got to play the Wild on Tuesday. You guys let us know. Shaky start out of the break. Glass half full. They did pick up 3 of the 4 points. They are still in the playoffs, but they got to hold some of these leads. What's your gut say? Do you have concerns that this team will finish in the playoffs? And with the deadline, is there a position that you want them to add? What do they need most to lock down that playoff spot? It's 97-1.
Hey, it's a big weekend of college basketball, and we all know locally it was a big weekend as well. March is almost here, which is the biggest time, and college basketball is getting ready for it. I'm sure you are as well. And FanDuel wants to let you know right now, new customers to FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $150 extra bucks to bet on anything from maybe it's a conference tournament or, tournament upsets when March finally gets here, or even who's going to be cutting down the nets when it's all said and done. If you've been waiting to join FanDuel, there is absolutely no better time to do it than now. The app is easy to use, and when you win, you're going to get paid instantly. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/971Detroit to get in on the action. That's FanDuel.com/971Detroit. And I talk about the action. It's college hoops at its finest in March. You must be 21 or over and present in Michigan. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as now in trouble. Bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Lot to discuss today. Good morning on a Monday. We're talking Red Wings. We'll get to the Pistons top of the hour, Michigan State in the 7 o'clock hour. If you missed something or you want to go just to the sport you care most about, use the Chapters feature in the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app. Listen to 97.1 The Ticket for a chance at the ultimate trip to Vegas. You could win $20,000. You and 3 friends stay at the Circa Resort and Casino. That's Vegas' premier sports viewing destination. And you can visit the biggest March hoops party going on at Stadium Swim. The Red Wings, glass half full, glass half empty. They split coming out of the break. They blew 2-goal leads in the third period in both of those games, which has John feeling concerned. I don't want to cast you in the wrong light. You just have some concerns whether this team's going to actually make the playoffs or not.
Right, and I do have a little caution when you say that this is a playoff team.
Yeah.
And I know that they're in a playoff position now. But I'm not going to call them a playoff team until they're actually in the playoffs.
They've played 2 months of really good hockey.
Yeah, you're 100% correct.
And they've undone the disastrous start. Yes, but they've undone that now. And I do believe that they will add at the deadline, which is the second part of this question here. I don't think we should ask people, do you want the Red Wings to get better at the deadline? Everybody should line up and say yes. But what would you prioritize on this hockey team? Where should they add in the next 2 weeks so that John and anybody else feeling concerned can take a deep breath and feel better about their chances down the stretch here? Because it's a tough schedule. Every point's going to matter. It's why what Kane did yesterday was such a big deal. If they lose, our tone today is, this stupid team's going to choke it again. And that win delays that conversation. Winning will make everybody feel good. I believe they're a playoff team. If we wanted to do Carson Anderson 51%, my 51 has them in. And honestly, it's higher than 51.
Well, so, okay, my 51 has them in as well, but it's right at
It's
51.
Yeah.
and I am just cautious because there are a lot of guys on this team that haven't proven that they can get over the hump, that they can actually make that happen. Dylan Larkin last week was talking about how it was so great to actually play for something because since his rookie season, he hasn't been playing for anything. And it is something, and I thought maybe there's some of those lessons that he learned in that 2 weeks, because you learn something every time you take the ice with anybody that you're playing with and in any competition. But I thought, it just, and then they come out and they blow that 2-point or the 2-goal lead. I'm frustrated because I do think that they should be a playoff team.
Let's get to the phones. Joe and Howell. Joe, good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Wings. I am a little concerned. I'm not in panic mode. I think they do eventually kind of limp in the playoffs. But as far as position of need, for me, this is a no-brainer. They need to upgrade their defense. I seen a post the other day that said that Sherratt and Seider, if you look at the analytics, are one of the worst pairs in the NHL. I know that's probably a little deceptive because they are better than what their numbers show. But your second pair, now you have 2 rookies, Aljo and Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
And then your third pair, Hall and Gustafson. If you're serious about making a playoff run, you cannot run Hall and Gustafson for the rest of the way. You have to get a defenseman somewhere within these next 2 weeks. You have to upgrade our defense.
Joe, I think it's a really good point. When McClellan took over, Seider and Edmondson were playing together, and I think he split them up because they don't have enough good defensemen. So you're right about that. And they are playing 2 rookies in the top 4. And Johansson's playing his offhand. It'd be great to bump him down to the third pair, take some pressure off as well as he's played, and have a real second pair D-man for this hockey team. And is that a Band-Aid guy? Yzerman's probably not looking to give up picks for Band-Aid guys. But I think defense is an obvious area for them to upgrade. I think their biggest need actually is that second center, but that's more of a long-term need, and
Sure.
that may be something that's not available at the deadline. But I think those are the areas we're looking at. Defense, center depth. If some goalie is made available, because let's call it what it is. Lyon and Talbot are probably backup goalies.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to keep the hot hand and try to catch lightning in a bottle and try not to overwork one of them so you can stretch this thing out and sneak in.
It's the hockey version of what AJ was doing at the end of the year with pitchers. It's chaos. And you're just simply trying to pull the right string at the right time.
Some ticket text on what they're seeing right now says, not making the playoffs again, and the Lions are never winning anything either. Deal with it, folks.
Wow, I bet you're fun to be around.
Hot start to that guy's morning. Priority for the Wings would be a second-line center who can kill penalties, followed by a second-pair shutdown D-man. Adding either one would improve their overall team defense, Jeff in Saline.
So they've been linked a little bit in trade rumors of Dylan Cousins.
With Buffalo.
Yes. We were looking at some stuff in the break. He's signed through 30.
Bad contract.
7 years, 49 plus million a year.
Yeah.
And I would be like, if the Wings were to absorb that contract, because he's not performing well statistically.
Mm-hmm.
I know he brings other things to the table.
He is one of these two-way centers,
But if you also bring him in, you might rejuvenate him. That's not the greatest of situations.
24 years old, could play the second line. If you're getting him at a discount.
Yeah.
And there were talks in December about Wings and Sabres personnel scouting one another, and that's a name that came up.
That's an awfully big move to make and commitment in season. It seems like something that would more be like a summer deal. However, if they were to do that, the only way I would want them to do that is if they included Kopp in the deal. Buffalo's got to take Kopp.
Or Comfer.
Yeah. I would do Kopp.
Yeah.
That way they're taking on a few years of his deal and you're replacing him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
with a better player.
And we do know there were some rumors about trying to get Tarasenko moved. Just hasn't been a good fit.
Take both of them.
My point is you do have to replace some of that third line scoring as well. So if you give, you still got to get. I'm of the belief this team is a playoff team, whether they add or not. They should have been a playoff team last year, even without adding. But Yzerman should learn the lesson from a year ago. This team's fought, they've scrapped, they've clawed. This roster deserves a move from ownership to put them in position to make the playoffs and cement it.
What he was talking about when he finally made the decision for the coach, all of those comments make me believe that, and especially now that we've seen that be successful and this team be a team that, is in a playoff position, make me believe that he is going to be a conservative buyer.
Yeah,
at the deadline.
Yeah,
and
that's
he
a fair
should be
way.
confident. And I thought you made a great point. The roster deserves it. They do. This team has, they've come back from the dead this year. They had 30 points at December 26th.
Yeah, look.
Okay, they're at 64 now. That's incredible. I don't think they're going to continue this pace because I think it's impossible, basically. But I do think they're playing better hockey than any of these teams down by them in the East. They're climbing out of the hole.
Well,
But this is who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would expect this to continue to where they, get 6.5 points, 7 points out of every 10 roughly games or not out of every 10 points or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Versus these other teams don't look like they're capable. We've been saying all year, when's the Rangers going to come? Boston looks like they're finally falling apart. You might have an opportunity there to trade for somebody.
Yeah. Take a peek and poke along. Yeah, that's the other thing. As the sellers become clear in the next 10 days to 2 weeks here, we're going to have some names to discuss for them.
Mm-hmm. And I think Thursday and Saturday are vital for what Steve Yzerman's going to do and what we think. And it's where's my 51 going to be after they play Columbus here and down in the Horseshoe.
There's one other name linked to them, defenseman, that I would just like just because I love the name. What a great name. Rasmus Ristolainen.
Philly.
Such a good hockey name.
Big body, right shot.
Yes.
Yeah. He'll block shots too, that physical style. Yeah, I'd be interested in that. Texter points out they have the toughest or second toughest remaining schedule. They suspect that they will just barely miss for the second year in a row. Texter says Vegas has them out, FYI. And an echo on get better defensively. That could be a forward. It could be a blue liner. They need to be better defensively and on the penalty kill if they're going to get in this year. All right, 7 o'clock hour. We're going to talk about the Pistons, who have won 6 games in a row. And as Cade Cunningham says, he's sizzling. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about the Spartans and the Wolverines who went toe-to-toe on Friday night, and an update on Matthew Stafford. The Rams are allowing him to explore a trade. We'll get to that in the 7 o'clock hour. It's 97.1. Michigan State played on Friday night. Who did that game say more about? We'll get to it at 7:35, plus the proposal after the game, fair or foul. Pistons, 6 in a row now, John. How about our basketball team?
It's been a lot of fun. We've talked about this all season long, where the development of Cade Cunningham and the way that this roster was constructed. How many times last year or the last couple of years did we talk about, floor spacing and just getting players for modern day basketball?
Hello.
That it's not just Cade and a bunch of bigs or it's a bunch of points. It's guys that can actually shoot, space the floor, and then we get a chance to see what Cade can actually be. We know he's an all-star, and he, even in the biggest games, before the break, they played Cleveland. They lost that one. They lost it by 3, but
he had like 38 points or something.
Yeah, 38 points.
Yeah.
He was 13 of 13 from the line. He was not great from behind the arc, but he showed up big in a big game. And then you go down to Atlanta, and it's kind of the same thing, right? It's a score, like who's got the ball last. 148, 143. And I know they had a bit of a buffer, but Atlanta starts coming back, and it was just Cade owned that game.
I saw something at the Red Wing game that I don't think I've seen before. In the intermission, people were collecting and congregating and watching the Pistons.
Well, yeah, you haven't seen it before because the last time that was possible, there wasn't even streaming. You couldn't stream the Pistons the last time they were good, reliably.
They have won 31 games this year. It's not a lot, but when you put it in context of it's the same amount of wins as the last 2 years combined, it shows you the turnaround that they've had. Yeah, and John, they're in the playoffs right now. We feel much better about their playoff chances than the Red Wings. And you start to get a little excited about having playoff basketball, where you think, how would they match up with the Knicks, who they've beaten twice already this year? Could you imagine a 7-game series with the Pacers, the bad blood between the two? I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but
Tyrese Halliburton, the trash-talking son of a gun, put him in his place. That would be awesome.
But these are the conversations that we get to start having now because, John, they are putting some distance. They're the 6th seed right now. They have a 3-game cushion. And Cade Cunningham is the biggest reason why. John, we did the mountain climber game. How good? Where do you want to stop?
Yeah.
He's all-star. I think he's all NBA right now.
Which level?
I don't think he's first team, but
I think he's probably going to be third team. And that's where, coming out of the break, where a lot of people had him. Just to see his name in the top 15.
He's 23 years old. He's one of the 15 to 20 best players in the sport. He had 38 yesterday, 12 assists. He had 3 block shots. He made 7 threes. John, with a little bit of spacing, he's able to get those matchups, and he can break apart a defense. He's a bigger guard, so he finishes well at the rim. I've seen that really improve this season. His 3-point shot's just as steady as it was a year ago, and when he's hot, there's no answer for the defense. You can't win. They flanked him with good shooters, Beasley and Hardaway Jr. These are vets. These are proven floor spacers. And in a game like that where you got to go toe-to-toe with Trae Young, Cade Cunningham's better. That's where we're at right now is he can carry a team.
Well, he can carry a team, certainly, and now you're starting to feel better about the max contract that he signed. Because before that, it was injury, right? Or it was the team, it was the coach, it was the structure of what they were doing. You never really saw the potential of winning the lottery and getting Cade Cunningham. What did that mean? And now, because there is spacing, because there is some other talent on the floor, he's getting competent coaching and, a general manager, a president of basketball operations that is making it possible for him to develop. You're like, okay, now I can understand why they decided to go with the max.
They've surpassed their preseason win total. They've won more games than the last 2 combined or will. Everything's been ahead of schedule. And I think it's because Cade's ahead of schedule, but I think it's also a credit to Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff and putting structure around your great player. And now you're right. Now they are in a position where we're going to taste playoff basketball, where Cade is going to get a taste of playoff basketball. And now you become attractive to try to find that number 2 and then elevate yourself into the contender tier. See, it all starts to fall into place when you have the guy. We spent a long time talking about how stars win in this league and the Pistons haven't had a star, and it's been a long, dark period of Pistons basketball. But the sun has come up.
Well, it has. And you start looking at can they play Chicago and they beat them twice before they go to break? It doesn't, that doesn't do anything. Again, But then when they play with the best teams, now they lost to Cleveland. I already mentioned that. But they didn't look completely outclassed. A game like that last year, you turn that off halfway through the first because you're like, I know how this is going to end, and it's not going to be pretty. Now all of a sudden you're intrigued. You stay tuned in, and you think, well, at the end you got a shot to win a game like that. You put that in a 7-game series. Now I'm not going to sit here and say they beat Cleveland in a 7-game series, but you could get a playoff series win.
I think they match up well with the Knicks. I don't know that they beat the Pacers in a 7-game series. That team gets under their skin. I'd love to watch it. I think they have a real shot against the Knicks, and that's who they'd play if the season ended today, which is wild that we'd be talking about having a shot to win a playoff series for this basketball team. They've won 6 in a row, first time since 2015. Like, we can have these conversations.
Do you think if they played the Pacers that Beef Stew could survive the series without a technical?
No.
That's impossible.
Oh, it's a lot.
He might get
survive
suspended.
a game
He might get suspended
without a technical. That will be something that JB and they got to address. You can't. JB talked about it when he was on with us, and I bring this up all the time. When you come back from the break, how do you get a young team that doesn't have a lot of experience, has no experience in the postseason or reaching the postseason? And he mentioned how every single possession matters. And you can't have, especially when you get into the playoffs, a possession that's thrown away because somebody loses their cool.
I've been fascinated that people aren't like nibbling at this a little bit more. General sports fans, like, look, the Pistons are a victim now of horrible years that they've had forever, apathy, but also I think they're a victim of the status of the NBA.
Yeah.
But if you just wash all that away, wipe the clean slate, and watch how this team's playing, they're everything that I think you would want in a young team that's growing. Like, I'm like, the way they have accelerated win-wise, they're 17-8 since the New Year's Day, including New Year's Day. That's when Ivy got hurt. What's going on here? You know, that's winning more than 2 out of every 3 games over 25 games. That's not just some streak. Like, they have flipped something here, and they're doing it without one of their key young guys.
Right. They're being consistent. Their winning streaks are longer than their losing streaks. They respond when they lose. And the conversations we're having about them, the tone is very similar to the conversations we're having about the Wings. And it's J.B. Bickerstaff for the Pistons. It's Todd McClellan for the Wings. How do they respond when they have a bad quarter or a bad period or a bad game?
I think they're in a similar state because I think the Pistons have a player in a game where a superstar matters more than any and can carry you, where the Wings don't have that kind of player like Cade. But I actually think they're in a similar state, and the Pistons are just benefiting from what the NBA is, which is the bottom half of the conference. Just they're kind of almost like mailing it in at this point. Versus in the NHL, and it goes back to what PK Subban said last week.
Yep.
You know what? All these teams are fighting, and they compete every night. Like, Atlanta really came and competed late in that game last night. I think the Pistons stole a game last night because usually a young team loses that, but they shot so well from 3. I mean, Beasley and Hardaway each shot 60% from 3, 10 attempts. Cunningham had 10 attempts and shot 70% from 3.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that every night.
They scored 148
and you're going to
points.
lose that game most times and stuff. But their fight, man, their resiliency is impressive, and I feel like people are missing out on it.
I think people are missing out if they haven't paid attention to this team lately. I understand checking out the last decade, 10-plus years, but I don't think you should be checking out right now.
No, and I think Gov makes a good point of the bottom part of the NBA. Like, those teams are all thinking about how do we find a way to get Cooper Flagg versus how do we find a way to get in the postseason. And you look at just the Eastern Conference for the Wings and the competition that they're facing. They're at 64 points right now, 2 ahead of Ottawa, 2 ahead of Columbus, who is the first team out. But you go all the way down. Boston, the Rangers, the Islanders, the Canadiens, the Flyers, they're all within 6 or 7 points. Now, I know that that's a lot to make up, but this is also with the feeling that we had a 9-point lead above the cut line last year and lost it. So at this point, you're not out of it. And I guarantee you there are people in the Flyers or the Canadiens that, and Boston may be a seller, but there are a lot of people in those and players and coaches in those organizations that believe we can make a push and still get there.
It's harder to make the playoffs in the East in hockey than it is in basketball. But I think part of this is the Wings conversation is fighting to get in. I think the Pistons have graduated to fighting for seeding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They haven't clinched a spot. There's still 25 games to go. But, John, they're playing well enough where I don't really doubt that they're making the playoffs. And now it becomes a question of seeding.
Yeah, because, making the playoffs, are we talking about just postseason? The play-in tournament,
playoff.
They are the last team in a playoff position, not in that play-in tournament. But I think they are, when you look at the teams, I believe that they're closer to Milwaukee and Indiana, the two teams in front of them, than they are to Orlando and Miami, the two teams behind them.
Couple quick ticket texts. Missing IVs turning into missing Javi. Well, let's not compare Jaden Ivey to Javi Baez, but it does show a team rallying. What's encouraging to me is they have veteran leadership for when the playoffs do start. That's when Beasley, Hardaway Jr., Harris, and Schroeder make their presence known. Certainly will help them out. Texter says, tell Jim to shut his mouth about the Pistons. Gloating is going to jinx them as he's done with others. Lions, Tigers.
Welcome back.
Red Wings. We'll talk college hoops coming up at
The
7:35.
jinx has returned.
If I don't say nice things about the team, I'm a mean hater. If I say nice things about the team, you guys tell me to shut up. All right, coming up next, Matthew Stafford. I'm sensing a theme. Matthew Stafford has permission to seek a trade. What does it mean for the NFC picture? It's next, 97.1.
Hey, your New Year's resolution is to lose weight. We are approaching the end of February, so let's go. Get in action. You can get there faster than you think with Ideal U. Go to idealu.us now, and you could lose 20 to 30 pounds in just 40 days. Whether your resolution was to lose 10 or 100 or anywhere in between, Ideal U works, and it works fast. I lost 10 in the first 10 days, so I was encouraged. I lost 50 pounds in the 40 days that we're talking about, and I got to eat real whole food. So you know what? It was something I could stick with. Ideal U's weight loss coaches are work with you every step of the way. Your coach is going to help you lose weight, but they're also going to help you keep it off. If you want to weigh less, go to idealu.us. Ideal U is a Michigan-based weight loss company that's helped thousands of people just like me and you lose weight. In fact, over 90% of Ideal U customers lose at least 20 pounds in just 40 days. I'm going to say that one more time. 90%, 9 out of 10 of Ideal U customers lose at least 20 pounds in just 40 days. If you want to weigh less, go to idealu.us. If you sign up now, you're also going to get a $200 Visa gift card. Start your new year off right. Lose weight, get that $200 Visa gift card. Want to weigh less? Go to idealu.us.
7:35, we're talking Spartans and Wolverines. Who did Friday night say more about? Plus the proposal after the game, fair or foul. 8 o'clock hour, little vacay recap. I'm refreshed and ready to be here. We did learn one area that I'm tougher than John. We'll get to that in the 8 o'clock hour.
Or just reckless.
Sure, spin zone. The Stafford stuff, real quick, before Heather's news. Matthew Stafford is allowed to seek a trade from the Rams. What do you make of this?
It's difficult because of where the number that matters, I think, a lot to some teams is the age. The second one is what type of cap hit are they going to take? And I know that he wanted to rework his deal in L.A., and maybe ultimately this is where it goes, is they work something out in L.A. and extend him, but do something that's a little bit more team-friendly, because wherever he goes, it's going to be a big hit on them as well. Does he have one more or two more or how many more really good years if the right system and the right players are around him? How much is that is going to be the agent trying to find the right fit, but also a right fit that's going to be able to pay the Rams what they want in return?
So I'm a little confused by the situation because Stafford would likely want to go somewhere with a winning, pedigree, right? And maybe a young defense and a chance to compete. That's the Rams. Their coaches won a Super Bowl. They've won it together. They have a young defense. They gave the Eagles a hell of a game in the playoffs. I'm just confused, and I don't think they're ultimately going to part ways. I think that both sides will do their homework. Where's Stafford going to go that he's going to have a better chance? I mean, maybe the Vikings would be the only team. But then what does that do for the Rams? They get to go into QB purgatory? I don't know if that makes sense for L.A. I think what will happen here is they'll give him an extension. He'll play out the next couple years in L.A.
That's probably the most likely. And I think that's why I said what I said. But if a trade is going to happen, now the Rams don't have to trade him at all. They don't have to trade him to where he wants to go.
Correct.
And so what are the most likely candidates? And I don't know that – I know everybody keeps talking about Minnesota as a trade partner, and that really only becomes a trade partner if they're willing to part with, if they franchise Sam Darnold and send him, or if they're willing to part with JJ, who they just drafted in the first round. Are they willing to say, we think Matthew Stafford can get us to the Super Bowl this year, and then we'll figure out what we want to do with the quarterback position after that, versus J.J. McCarthy, who they spent a first-round pick on and could be their quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, it's a weird cash out for a team that just broke through a year ago and feels like they don't need to make that move. The other destinations are what? The Steelers, who are kind of in purgatory. The Giants, absolutely not. If I'm Stafford, why do I want to go there and fight from the bottom of the division?
Well, the Steelers make sense for Stafford. I don't know how they make sense for the Rams.
Right.
What are they getting in return?
Well, picks.
I think my gut feeling since this came up, I think we actually got into this on a Thursday touchdown a few weeks ago, didn't we? Just how if you connected the dots from O'Connell, who coached Stafford when the Rams won the Super Bowl, and then he got the head coaching job. Also, teams are going a little bit more in the last 5 years all in on a QB. That may not make sense. Like, did it make sense what the Jets did? Seriously, with Aaron Rodgers. They're all copycatting because Tom Brady did it and won a Super Bowl, and then Stafford did it. So they're trying to copycat that. I just have a gut feeling the Rams are up to something. And I can't connect those dots yet, but it doesn't make sense for them to move on for this coming season to me. And so I feel like they're up to something. Like, they feel like maybe it's time to flip their roster. They believe in their young defensive players so much from last year who really came on. And then Nakua and Williams, all these guys, and that they can maybe
I don't buy it. I think McVay, he didn't think Goff was very good. That's a separate conversation. But he knows how important the quarterback position is. I don't know that they want to go into this QB purgatory. It's not a draft that they're going to have access to a QB or any that anybody's super excited about. What's the plan there? Just throw away a year or two?
Just like your word, though. They can still get value for Stafford.
All right.
Well, I mean, I think the place where they can get value for a team that wants to turn things around quickly, and I don't think that there's a path to a quarterback, is the Raiders.
Top 10 pick.
Yeah. I mean, but would they be willing to give up a top 10 pick for Matthew Stafford,
37 years old, and you have to give him an extension too because he wants an extension. Yeah, see, I just don't think it's going to work out. I think he's going to end up back in L.A. 248-539-9797. Let's get to Heather's news.
So multiple people were killed on Sunday in a car crash on I-75 in Detroit. The crash happened just after 3 p.m. in the southbound lanes of 75 near Mack Avenue. And Michigan State Police say 4 vehicles were involved in this crash, and it happened when one driver failed to brake for slow traffic. You know, literally didn't apply the brakes when there were brake lights ahead of them. A 50-year-old Novi man and a 56-year-old Farmington Hills woman were killed. They also say several others were injured. And police just say that it is important for all drivers to remember that they're not only responsible for themselves, but also for their passengers and everyone else on the road when they get behind the wheel. Because one of them, the 50-year-old man, was a passenger in the at-fault driver's vehicle. I don't know about the other woman, if she was a driver or passenger, but it's tragic.
Yep.
An American Airlines flight heading to India from New York had to be diverted to Rome with fighter escort after there was a fake bomb threat made on board, apparently. The flight took off from JFK Airport on Sunday, but this fake, unfounded bomb threat was received through email, and it caused the flight to divert. And the flight was just 2 hours from its destination when it made this abrupt U-turn. There's images you can see on social media of this plane being tailed by like 2 fighter planes back to the airport. In total, passengers were stuck in the air for 14 hours and 45 minutes before they landed. Oh my gosh.
Terrifying, miserable, all of it.
All of it. Then once they landed, they had to sit there and their bags had to be searched. Like a very big security checkpoint, basically, they had to go through again before they could carry on to actually
being in
getting
the
to their
air for 14
destination.
hours would be miserable, but also being there thinking that you're going to, how much did they know about what was going on?
They said that it did get a little nervous, that there was, like the captain made an announcement about that there's a diversion due to a security issue.
Oh, boy.
Which then your mind just starts going, and then you're terrified altogether. Sounds horrendous. The Four Nations Face-Off Championship game between the U.S. and Canada drew massive ratings and was the most viewed non-NFL game ever on ESPN. So the game was watched by 16.1 million in North America, with 9.3 million viewers in the U.S. and 6.3 million in Canada. I think at its peak, there was like 10.4 million watching here in the U.S. They say it was the second most watched hockey game in the past decade, behind Game 7 of the 2024 Stanley Cup Final. That game drew 16.3 million. So just a little more.
I saw one of the stats that said at the peak in Canada, over a quarter of the nation was watching.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, they were fully invested.
Very, very cool. Buffalo Sabres commentator Rob Ray dropped an F-bomb live on TV after taking a puck to the face. And what's wild is that this is the second time he took a puck to the face in just over a year. My goodness. So it happened on Saturday during the game against the New York Rangers. There was just like over 2 minutes left in the first period, and a Rangers player hit the puck over the advertising boards, and it went straight into the broadcasting area.
Just took another one.
It just got continued on.
Yeah.
Like nothing happened, wiped the blood off his face and kept going.
One of the players or somebody in the organization needs to, if he's going to sit there, needs to give him a helmet with face mask and insert the earbuds or whatever he needs to be able to call the game, put the microphone inside the helmet and just let him sit there with the helmet on.
Or just, can glass be installed?
I don't know.
I don't know what it looks like.
I suppose you could, but it would be odd.
Would it? Okay, well,
Yes.
I mean, protect this guy at all costs.
Yeah,
I
no
mean,
kidding.
my
Yeah.
goodness, 2 times?
Yeah.
Very quickly, back to back. That's wild. Some customers are not happy about this major change that's coming to Wendy's drive-thrus. Soon, an actual person may not actually be taking your order. Instead, the restaurant is expanding the use of AI and is set to deploy this voice-enabled AI order taking, basically. The CEO says this fresh AI improves the customer experience, enables some labor inefficiencies that they're experiencing at the restaurant. Says it's going to be great. We'll be rolling out at 600 locations throughout the U.S. But customers are kind of divided. Some say, "Hey, this is kind of where we're headed. I don't mind it." Others are saying, "This is awful. I'm never going to Wendy's again."
Well,
The robots are taking our
They're
jobs.
taking over. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, so how many times do you order at a fast food joint or anywhere online, and all you do is pull up to pick it up? It's really not different than
Well,
that.
the one person said that apparently this has happened somewhere else and that they've had to ask for a real, can I speak to a real human?
Representative.
Because they couldn't understand what this guy was saying, apparently. That
boy.
could be an issue, which
Not
could,
all accents are accepted.
according to one person, is saying that, hey, this is an issue. If you can't understand what I'm trying to order, this is going to cause way more backups because then
Yep.
it's like you have to ask for a human. So we'll see how that goes.
Heather with the news. All right, Spartans and Wolverines went toe-to-toe last Friday night. First chance for us to talk about it. Who did it say more about? It's 97.1. If you're injured in a car accident, you need help, and you need someone who cares about you. It's KG Law. A lot of these personal injury types, they see you as a number. Lawrence KG built his business with a loyal staff. I've met those people. They're not cutting corners. They care about you, and they win. The phone number is 877-KG-CARES. Check them out, kgcares.com. Lawrence KG cares about his clients. You're not going to be left in the dark. The process doesn't happen overnight, and you want someone that cares about you, that checks in. You're not going to be wondering about your updates. So if you or a loved one have been injured in a car accident, you need to call KG Law now. Visit kgcares.com. That's KAJY, kgcares.com. That's Jason Benetti. Fun to hear him on the call Friday night when the Spartans and Wolverines met at the Breslin Center. Tiger baseball right around the corner, too. Nice little reminder there. Yeah, it was at Chrysler. I said that, right? Did I say Breslin?
Yeah.
I meant Chrysler.
Oh.
Chrysler.
No.
They play
Yes,
at the
they
Breslin
played-
before the season's over. But yes, that was at the Chrysler. We'll get
Yeah.
to the proposal
Last
at
game
the
of the season.
Chrysler. I
Yeah.
know. We'll get to the proposal that was afterwards here in just a little bit. But the game itself, John, what did you take out of it?
I mean, it was, from a Michigan perspective, it was everything we've come to know and love about this year's team, where there are times that they look really good and get a big lead and then just find a way to not have a second half and lose the lead. It's turnovers. There's a number of different reasons why this happened. I mean, they went absolutely cold, with 15 minutes left in the game.
Ice cold. Couldn't buy a three.
Yeah.
Couldn't buy anything, but they 1 of 10, I think, from three to close that game out. Look, to me, it said a lot about MSU that they've done this now 3 straight games, closing people out, shutting off their water, I think was one of the lines at the end of that game there. Michigan State went on the road in a big game, and to me, I thought their depth was big, bench scoring, but also late in the game having that effort, that energy on defense to really shut things down. And I think that Jace Richardson, what he's been able to do over the last 2 to 3 weeks here, he might just be that piece that puts him over the top here. Someone who can create his own shot, who can break down a defense. I mean, hell, he had the first basket to start the game and then stares into the Michigan crowd, and he had the first basket out of the half when they needed to come back. I really have been impressed by him. They're a deep team, but the question is, do they shoot well enough, and do they have a guy who can get a bucket when you need to? He answers both of those things for them. I thought that was super illuminating for Michigan State because everybody knows they're good. It's just a question of how good. And if he plays that way and they're playing that level of defense and they're making shots, they're absolutely in that picture of teams that can win it all.
Well, and what's fun here is it feels like there's going to be a lot riding on that very final game of the regular season, that there's going to be even more riding on the Big Ten tournament. And it's because Michigan and Michigan State should be the two teams everybody's talking about. I know Wisconsin's in there, and I know Purdue can be in there, but it feels like the cream of the crop is Michigan State in Big Ten play.
And you got to see him toe-to-toe. What stood out to you guys? 248-539-9797. And who did it say more about? I mean, was it a cementing of Michigan State's status as the best in the Big Ten and a national title contender? Or does it say more about Michigan that they lost that game at home, that they blew a halftime lead, and that their guards, John, I know that's an area that's really hurt this team. Their guards, you can't get into the paint. You're turning the ball over. I mean, they're not a complete basketball team.
Well, they're not a complete basketball team, and I came at it from a Michigan perspective. From a sports perspective, Michigan State went into Chrysler, and they had the better mentality for that matchup. Mm-hmm. They had what they needed to go into enemy territory and come away with not just a win, but a decisive win. They came out at the beginning of the game, and they set the tone. Now, I know Michigan did get a lead, and there was a 16-0 run in there, but Michigan couldn't be consistent enough through 40 minutes to be a team that would win that game. And it's just Dusty has said it earlier in the season, when you lose leads and you turn the ball over and you can't fix it, I just don't think they're a very tough team.
Maybe it told you more about them then. I mean, you guys let us know. Joe in Grosse Ile. Joe, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I have to laugh because I feel like I'm going to be an AI version of what Jim Costa just said. It says a lot more about the Spartans. It says a lot more about their depth, especially in the backcourt. Jace Richardson is a star in the making. And when you get ready to play in the tournament, they always say guard play is most important. The Spartans look like they're getting ready to go into the tournament. Michigan is still a load. Those bigs are tough, but when they just can't do it all. And Michigan's got to get more out of their guard play. But I was pleased that the Spartans came up so big in the second half.
Yeah. I mean, I again, the winner to me should kind of get the headline. That doesn't mean if you're a Michigan fan, you can't call in and talk about your basketball team. But I think if I was a Spartan fan, I'd go, boy, that answered some of my big concerns for this team. You have to repeat it. But if Trey Holloman's going to hit from deep, right? If your fears hit like a bank shot three, you go, okay. If they can shoot like that on the road, if they can get that performance out of their guards, and I think Richardson's become a really consistent shooter for this team, that's their path. We know they're going to defend. We know they're going to rebound. We know they're going to run. One of my big concerns with them to be a national champion was, could they make enough threes, and do they have guys who can create a shot when they need it at the end of the game? Michigan State, front runners in the Big Ten now. They're the best team in the Big Ten. I expect them to win the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a stretch where they were going to have to be the tougher team.
Yep.
And the mentality that they've had against Purdue. Now they finally got the victory that Izzo needed against Illinois. They put that in the rearview mirror, and then number 13 Purdue, and they took it to them. There was never really a doubt in my mind in that game, and They took it to Michigan. Now they got to go on the road to a ranked Maryland. They're going to face Wisconsin at home at the end of the weekend. So yeah, I think this was that opportunity for this Michigan State team to plant their flag. And we talked about it a little bit last week. You asked, what did Stoney and I talk about all last week? We wanted to know who was going to have a better postseason. Was it going to be the Wings? Was it going to be the Pistons? Was it going to be Michigan or Michigan State basketball? And I think Michigan State coming out of the weekend says, I know we just talked about the Pistons, but I think Michigan State is built and they are playing their best basketball. They're building to, I don't even know that they've played their best basketball. They're building to their best basketball right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Wings, I think they're going to get in. We talked about them. If you missed it, rewind chapters, pick the stuff you want. I think the Wings will get in. I don't think they're going to do much. I think the Pistons likely lose in the first round, although I'm intrigued if they get the Knicks. The Spartans are the team most built to go on a run. Now, you're kind of grading on a curve, though, because for Michigan State, it's not enough to just get to the Sweet 16, right? The expectations are always so much higher when you have a Hall of Fame coach, and it feels like he's got a team that can actually go on a run where the Sweet 16 is where things start.
Right, and that's State. Where I kind of felt like that would be the absolute cap for Michigan, where the cap for Michigan State is much more than that.
I do think they can win it all. I don't think they're the favorite. Auburn's a problem, but yes. Michigan State I think showed a lot going on the road as a dog, trailing at the half, and just closing that game out with an emphatic victory. 248-539-9797. You guys let us know. Spartans, Wolverines. Who did you learn more about? What are your big takeaways from that game? When the game ended, about an hour later, Vlad Golden, himself a decent guy, decided to make it a great day for him and his now fiance. He got down on one knee and proposed after a loss. Fair or foul, we'll talk about it coming up next. It's 97.1.
Hey, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting, so even if you've missed the first few minutes of the game, hey, it doesn't matter. You want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you want to make your picks after the first whistle, you could do it all the way up until the final buzzer. You could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now's the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers can get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/971Detroit to join today. That's FanDuel.com/971Detroit for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. You must be 21 or over and present in Michigan. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as now eligible bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
8 o'clock hour, little vacay recap, and I discovered I'm tougher than John Jansen. It's a great way to start the week.
Yep. You roll with that one. Whatever you got to tell yourself.
I will. Michigan State win on the road at Chrysler. Showed me a lot. They shot 40%. We know they're 10 deep. They rolled in there and they got a big win in a big game in the Big Ten title race. And it did alleviate some of the concerns that you may have of the Spartans. Do they have enough shooting? Well, to go on the road and shoot 40% from three. Can they close out games? Well, they did it against Purdue. They did it against Michigan. They did it against Illinois. They've done this now for 3 straight games. To me, it said a lot about the Spartans. I get it if you're a Wolverine fan and you go, yep, we got exposed. I actually learned more about my team. Let us know. 248-539-9797. Texter says, John simply can't say that MSU kicked their ass and is the better team. I think you'd say that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they clearly were.
Yeah.
And so
are you focused on it from your school's
right,
perspective?
from a Michigan perspective, and I think we did learn more about Michigan State and the possibilities for them, whether it's the Big Ten tournament, ultimately if they're able to win the Big Ten regular season and the run that they can make in the postseason. Because what we've learned about Michigan, it was only a confirmation.
Yeah.
More than you're not learning anything new. What we knew was they could build a lead, they could lose a lead and lose a game.
I've seen that plenty.
And they did that on against Michigan State.
And the question is, well, what's new for State? This Chase Richardson thing is new. He's a freshman, and in the last month here, I think he's really turned the corner. He had 21 points on the road against Michigan. He's had the big 20-point outburst against Oregon when they needed somebody to step up. You look at Michigan State, and I know they had lost that 3 of 4 stretch. 2 of them were on the road out west. I really feel like they're settling in and playing their best ball right now. Texter says they're loaded. Izzo loves the coach. Look out Final Four. Michigan State has the best guard play in the nation. Their bigs are serviceable, but guard play will win in March. I feel very confident Izzo will have them ready, as he always does. They feel ready earlier than they normally are. So Spartan fans really feeling it. One texter does say they're weird, though, because this texter says that they're weird, and I don't particularly know if they're good enough most nights shooting to go on a pronounced run. I still think that's a fair critique.
Right. It's going to be about consistency. And going into the game and listening to everybody talk about Michigan State, we talked about it last week, is who's going to be the better shooting team. And they clearly showed that in this matchup, they were the better shooting team. But can they consistently do that when they get into the tournament?
I'm just like, Michigan's been like, I'm totally confident in what I know they are as a team. It's not, they're like the 3rd or 4th best team in the Big Ten. That look when they played Purdue and State, like especially the game at Purdue, they scored 64. They scored 62 the other night against State. That's their 2 lowest point totals of the year. What? Against tough Big Ten competition.
Yep.
That's why they got accused of being soft after the game by some people on social media. The thing is, when they get into the tournament, they won't run into teams like that. And they've got a very fluid offense. And basically, it's going to be, okay, whoever they play figures them out enough in time to win the game, and then Michigan, becomes the turnover machine at the end of the game and blows it. It's like, I still think they could get to the Sweet 16 with the right draw, but for them to make any deep run, I'm not confident. Versus State, I think they showed the other night, if you can get timely shooting as you get deeper into the tournament, that it wouldn't surprise me if they made the Final Four.
Well, they've got about 10 days to find some answers. That's Michigan. And because they're going to face Nebraska, Rutgers, Illinois. Games that they should win. Now, the Illinois game obviously will be a big game in the Jansen house, but it won't be in terms of the Big Ten standings. And then they play a ranked Maryland team. We just talked about, that's the next opponent for Michigan State. And then they go on the road to East Lansing. And they've got to find a way to minimize turnovers. And if they can get leads in those 2 big games, how do you hold a lead? How do you seal and
they
finish a game?
They haven't been able to do it all year. How are they going to figure it out now?
Well,
that's why I'm so
point.
confident.
They've got 10 days to figure it out, and I don't think that they will. That's why Friday night was confirmational. You didn't learn anything new. It just confirmed who they are.
Exactly, yeah.
248-539-9797. We welcome the basketball calls. Hey, March is right around the corner. We saw these 2 heavyweights go toe-to-toe Friday night. We'll keep the lines open. After the game, Vlad Golden, 7-foot center for Michigan. Exciting moment for him. He got down on one knee. He proposed to his girlfriend, now fiance, of over 2 years. He did it after a loss. John, okay.
So I'm not big on these proposals to begin with. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We talked about it leading up to Valentine's Day. Not a big fan of the public proposal. Now, it all depends on the relationship you have, and you better know your partner well enough to know that she's going to be okay with it. After a loss, I mean, I know you had plans, and it would have been, great, grand, glorious, whatever adjective you want to use if you win the game and you get on a knee, you make the proposal, and it's a wonderful night. You lose the game, and then you still go through with the proposal. Now, one doesn't have to be connected to the other, but it feels like maybe that moment wasn't going to be as special as you really wanted it to be, so you put it off a day.
So I had read that he had planned to do this on Saturday, that Michigan was on the road for Valentine's Day, and he had planned this Saturday day with his girl, and he was going to propose on Saturday. Something changed. He decided he wanted to do it on Friday. He wanted to do it on game day.
I understand being anxious, not wanting to wait a moment longer.
But you lose that game, this big rivalry game, and I know he's only been here for a season, but this is a big game regardless, and you would think emotionally you'd be down after losing a game like that. That would really kind of eat at you. You blew it. You had a halftime lead. You couldn't score at the end of the game. I would be in a bad mood if I lost that game. I couldn't then imagine celebrating Friday night because, again, you propose, you probably go out to dinner, you take photos, your phone calls, the joy that comes with that moment feels very odd after what should have been a heartbreaking loss, or a tough loss anyway, right?
Yeah, it would be hard to celebrate
the night you lose
appropriately.
A rivalry game?
Yeah, and it's, I don't know. I mean, everybody.
Maybe he can compartmentalize better than other athletes.
But then it's like, hey, honey, let's talk about the day we got engaged. Well, guess what happened before that?
Yeah.
Just hours before I proposed to you.
Yeah, the kids say, hey, Dad, how'd you propose to Mom? Well, we lost the big rivalry game, and then I got on a knee, and she said yes.
Well, after MSU shut our water off and we couldn't score, I decided I wanted to spend the rest of my life with your mother. Fair or foul, clearly all that matters is that they're happy. But on the outside, we all look in and we go, after a loss?
I wouldn't have liked it if it was a win. Like, I wouldn't have liked it after a win either.
To me, that's just not a moment that is, it's just not a public, I think everybody wants to see this moment.
And I think the engagement should be on its own. Like, don't tie it with something else. Don't tie it with a win or a loss. Don't tie it with a game day. Don't tie it with a holiday. Don't tie it with a big event. Make it your own special day.
Probably, and I don't know if, I'm sure it's happened before in history, but I don't know that I've ever seen, after a loss, a member of the losing team propose.
I can't think of any instance of this until last week.
Now, it didn't happen right away,
No,
right?
it
It
was
was a couple
basically
hours after the game, correct? Or did it,
mostly empty gym,
Yeah.
an hour after the game. Yeah, this wasn't like...
so it wasn't like MSU was celebrating and he's over
correct.
on the court
Proposing.
down on one knee. Like, that would be even more awkward.
Yeah. I don't know. I just know how, even if you played good in a loss, and I'm not going to analyze how he played, but
20 points.
My feeling after a loss is that it just wouldn't be something I would be comfortable doing. I wouldn't be in the right headspace.
Right.
That's kind of what I
wouldn't
go
have
back
the
to.
right attitude that you would need for a moment like that.
248-539-9797. We'll take some ticket, text, and phone calls on that as well. It's 97.1. They lost the game, but he won her heart. Sal in Canton texts in. Aw.
Aww.
Fair or foul, proposing after your team loses a top 25 rivalry game on your home floor where you blow a halftime lead. The headspace thing that John talked about, that's what I can't get over is, look, as long as they're happy, that's all that matters. But to lose that game and then to flip the switch into joyous, celebratory.
I was always very jealous of teammates who could compartmentalize, and there were guys that could leave the locker room after a loss and just go on about their daily lives. And I was somewhat jealous of that because a loss would stick with me, not just that night, but for days.
Golden is a new player here. He has no sense of the rivalry. But isn't that an issue though? Like, don't we talk about, hey, you got to take these games seriously?
It's the life of the transfer portal. It's the new age of college athletics.
Texter says maybe thinking about the game and the proposal was the problem. I don't want to go that far. He played fine. He wasn't the guy. He scored 20 points.
Yeah,
and he had some tough baskets. This one says some things are bigger than basketball. It's only the regular season.
That's a tough one because yes, there are, and this is certainly a life-altering moment.
Vlad invited friends and family, some coming far away. This was a planned event. You can't just call off. The topic is going to call his question into character, and that's not fair to him.
From his character into question.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to question his character. I'm not going to. It's just if he had a plan for Saturday, why bump it up?
Because I had read Saturday was the plan, and for whatever reason, he wanted to do it.
And maybe somebody had to leave early Saturday.
Sure.
He wasn't going to be able to do it. And in that circumstance, sure, fine.
I understand.
Go for it. And it now that you put the context of this is a couple of hours after, and it's not a full arena.
But why there?
Well,
they met in Florida. There's not like a specific affinity to Michigan.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, basketball is a huge part of his life.
Of course.
It's going to be a big part of their lives probably moving forward. So
Okay.
I understand the place. But that's why I said, why, if you're doing on Saturday, I'm sure he could get into Chrysler on Saturday and have a.
I mean, I'm sure there's a really nice restaurant or
I
somewhere
don't
else.
have I don't have any issue with him doing it. I mean, I've had teammates do it at stadiums or in the big house, but not with not on game day.
How about this text? Buddy sent this to me after the game. Quote, I know we lost, baby, but I can't lose you too.
Aww.
Anyway, Jim, go back on vacation. This is the topic you bring up. Who cares how they got engaged? You're looking for negativity. Okay. Speaking of the vacation, I had a great time. I don't need to make it negative. But I did learn that I'm tougher than John Jansen.
Oh, did you?
I went swimming with stingrays, and I was telling you the story about it, and you go, I wouldn't go in the ocean.
Nope.
That really surprises me.
So I used to. I had a bad experience one time when I was snorkeling, and I got swarmed by fish.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then you look up, and there's there's the bigger fish looking at all the little fish, and you just don't want to be mistaken for one of them.
But John, you're a pretty big fish.
I don't like the feeling of being in that environment and being without any tools to defend myself.
So you'd go with a spear, though, maybe.
Yeah, maybe if I had a spear gun.
Yeah, maybe
that would be
then.
awesome. Yeah. Hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
See, in that environment, you are at a severe disadvantage, even if you have a quote-unquote tool.
Hand-to-fin combat.
Yes, hand-to-fin, yes.
But these stingrays, I went to the Cayman Islands, and they have this stingray city there and some other sandbars around it where they come up to you. These stingrays, they've been essentially, I wouldn't say domesticated, but they're used to humans. So they'll come up and they want to be there. They expect you to pet them and touch them, and they get fed, and they are harmless. John?
For the most part, you're all right.
I didn't feel like I was in danger at any moment. I know Steve Irwin.
Yeah, tell that to Steve
Only
Irwin.
takes one spike.
Harmless.
That's why I said
Only
largely.
takes one stinger.
But I went and saw the stingrays.
Yeah.
I went and saw Bioluminescent Bay, which is like straight out of a Disney movie.
That's sweet.
Late night, when it's dark waters, they've got these plankton that'll light up when you move your arms or snap your fingers or clap your hands. And there's only like 5 places in the world you can see it.
That's
so
cool.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I saw
Did
that.
you guys take any video of that?
They're not great. I have some photos, but you have to move So you. It's
Yeah.
like blurry because you have to move to get the the plankton to light up.
So you tell your wife to move and you take the video, or she holds the video and you move. Like there's a way to get this done.
I know there is, and there's some great videos online. But the stingrays, the light up plankton stuff, we saw some starfish or whatever, snorkeling. I had a great time. I'm refreshed, recharged, ready to go,
Good
excited
for
to be
you.
here. I did watch U.S. Canada. I know that was a question.
I
And
figured you
both of them?
would.
Both.
Okay,
Oh.
good for you.
They had. Okay.
2
When-
games?
When you're on vacation, you do the things you like. I like watching
Yeah,
hockey.
but you can't do the things you do in Cayman Island every day you're here. Like, you got to go enjoy
It's
where
night.
you're at while
It's-
you're there.
It's the nighttime. I've got frozen mojitos. I've got the game at the bar. I'm having a good time.
And here's where I think it goes from I understand to perfectly acceptable. Your wife might be a bigger hockey fan than you are.
Yeah, potentially.
I mean,
yeah.
you've talked about the stories of her going to the Frozen Four with her,
Her
dad.
dad,
That's something
yeah.
that she did even before she met you.
They would drive. She grew up in West Michigan. They drive out here to watch Red Wing games.
Yeah, so especially if it's something that you were both into, it's perfect, absolutely perfect.
Beat some Canadians in cornhole. Repped USA. It's a good time.
Yeah,
Caught up on. I started and have caught all the way up to Severance on
Oh,
the plane
awesome.
rides. Are you?
I paused season 2 because I felt like I wanted to rewatch season 1 because there was a big gap in between both seasons. So I put it on pause for the moment, but I'm a huge fan.
This might be one of the more exhausting conversations I have heard all across airwaves and with people in regards to watching a season. Now, if I like a season, right, I'll watch it again just because out of pure enjoyment. Watching Jack Ryan on Amazon, like I've watched that every season multiple times. But to have to watch it because you think you missed something, people watching a show and then being like, oh, I got to go watch it again, or a third time. Like if you got to watch it that intently,
You don't have to. And I did do like a recap. There's like a 15-minute, like you can
Yeah.
find a recap of season 1 and watch it all in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's such a cool show that I really wanted to make sure I understood what I was watching the second season. So I paused it so I could just make sure I understood what I already saw. Because it was a while. It was
I was
like over
gonna
a year
say,
ago.
these shows,
season
they
1.
come
you know,
out-
like I just don't remember.
and then it takes forever for the
Yeah.
second season to come out. So I didn't watch season 1, but when
Okay.
you have basically 4+ hours of flights each way, a little downtime at the airport, I am all caught up,
Yeah, it's
and
cool,
I
isn't it?
totally get the hype.
It's a good show.
John, I know you haven't started it.
no. It
And he won't?
I probably won't. It's going to be one of those where maybe down the road, if there's 4 or 5 seasons, I'll pick it up and see if it grabs hold.
Innies and outies and
Oh,
And
really?
not belly buttons.
not
yeah.
belly buttons.
Oh,
So the concept, without spoiling anything, the way the show is set up is there are people who choose to be severed. And what that means is when you go into work, you don't remember what happens when you come out of work. You have your outie, the person who lives outside of work. And when you go into work, a switch gets flipped in your brain. You have a surgical procedure. You have someone who just does the work inside.
so it's sci-fi.
A little bit, but it's
Yeah,
really
but
see, you
no,
go down the
but no.
sci-fi road, and unless it's Star Wars, I'm out.
It's not like
I'm
Star
with you
Wars
there, but it's
sci-fi.
not. It's not like that. It's not like because I'm the you say sci-fi. I'm like, oh, that's not my
Yeah.
genre.
Thriller,
but no, this
thriller
is good.
is the
yeah.
genre it's considered. It's
Yeah.
a thriller. There's mystery.
He's not gonna watch it.
No.
Just don't waste your
Anyway,
time.
well, sorry everybody.
1923 came back out. I'll watch that one first.
248-539-9797. Some ticket text coming in 248-539-9797. People surprised that John won't go in the ocean. That's 8 notches down the toughness belt, Jansen.
So be it. Just not comfortable.
The ocean has jellyfish. No, thank you. I'm with John. Kevin in Grosse Pointe.
Yeah, they're going to sting you. You don't even see them.
They're gross. You're not gonna get stung.
One time I was scuba diving in Hawaii. I got run over by a school of tuna. I was flipping around the water and I actually thought I was being attacked by sharks. I barely made it to shore. Cuts all over my arms and chest.
Yes.
Wow.
And the salt water did not make me feel any better. That was my last time in the ocean.
Now, I will say this. I have not projected my nervousness about going in the ocean onto the kids. Kids
Good.
love going in there. They swim no matter where they are.
John, you won't go in the ocean. Do you put on elbow pads when you go rollerblading too?
Can you picture him rollerblading?
Yeah, I'd be 8 foot tall.
Yeah.
So John,
I was just gonna say, John, put your helmet on like Doug when he goes in the ocean.
So John is only a badass with animals on land and when he's armed. Got it, Eric in Bloomfield.
No, freshwater. I'm all about freshwater.
Okay.
I go swimming in anything in freshwater. There's not going to be a walleye that eats you.
See, I don't like freshwater. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'll go in it, but I don't like a small
You're
lake.
so lame.
I don't like seaweed.
I don't mind seaweed at all.
Ugh.
Jim, you're not giving the experience at Bio Bay its true justice. Apparently, it only happens when it's locked in with the lunar cycle. So only on clear nights do you even have the option of seeing these little light up stuff in the water. More ticket text. If you both want to watch hockey, great. That's your choice. You're on vacation, Dave and Warren. As long
It
as
is your
both
choice.
parties are happy, that's all that matters.
You
Yeah.
do you. I don't care what you do.
Thank you. 248-539-9797. All right, we are going to get back into sports coming up at 8:35. The Wings weekend that was, they blew multiple 2-goal leads. They split over the weekend, and one member of the show is concerned about their ability to make the playoffs. Coming up next, I want to know what I missed. I shared a little with you. What was Stoney like?
Oh. Not sure we have enough time.
We'll do it next. 97.1.
When it comes to managing your finances, you need a bank that gets you and is genuinely interested in your success. That's why I bank with First Merchants Bank. Whether it's your business banking or day-to-day personal banking, First Merchants Bank is 100% interested in helping you prosper. First Merchants bankers are attentive. They're going to take the time to get to know you and build a financial plan that fits your unique situation. It's exactly what they did for me, and they have been willing to modify it multiple times over the course of my relationship with them. When you make the switch to First Merchants Bank, you're also going to get access to their highly rated mobile banking app with innovative personal finance tools. Plus, they're deeply connected to the community's needs because it's their community as well, and they volunteer and donate to local causes to ensure that we all prosper together. This is the difference of a 100% interest in you. For a better banking experience, visit firstmerchants.com. That's firstmerchants.com. First Merchants Bank, helping you prosper. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
One member of the show has some doubts about this Red Wings team. Will they make the playoffs? Split over the weekend. Nearly a disaster both days. We'll get to it at 8:35. I am back from vacation. I learned that after swimming with some stingrays that I did something that John Jansen wouldn't even do.
Yep. I think it's very clear. I understand my limitations, and I'm okay with those.
They did tell me the stingrays are kind of cat-like, John. That
Well,
makes
so
a difference.
yeah. So you felt that one.
Yes.
Missing Roomba
And getting still some of that. Anyway, I do want to know what I missed. The biggest thing I missed being out all last week. Some ticket text first, though. This one comes for Heather.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy. I like Heather, but what a snob. Can't get married after a basketball game. Jim can't watch hockey on vacation. Take it easy, Your Royal Highness.
You can do whatever you want. Obviously, this kid can propose wherever he wants. I don't really care, but I wouldn't choose to do that if it was me. That's all I'm saying.
I'm liking Royal Highness versus Bridezilla. I
A little
am.
more uppity.
Royal Highness also is what they used to refer to Princess Leia as. Yes, Your Royal Highness.
Is that a
Yes,
bad thing?
yeah.
I've never seen Star
Depends
Wars.
on which way you look at it.
Okay.
I like Leia.
Yeah.
And this one says, John, you have to watch Severance. I know you won't, but you have to.
Well, maybe someday.
Someday.
Someday when I have the time to.
You need time. It's one of those
Yeah.
shows, like, you can't have your phone out. You have to be paying attention.
Well, it feels like it's one of those shows where you, like you said, you can't have your phone out. You need to be mentally invested.
You do.
And I don't think I have that energy right now to be mentally invested in something that I have to think about.
So what's the biggest thing I missed?
Well, I think on the surface, the biggest one was Stoney's comparison, how do I best say this? The way that he described Javi Baez and him being on the roster and still being here, where he compared it to something that smells in his house, and he bought and paid for this. Why would he continue to allow this to still be in his house? So you get the connection.
I thought he crossed the line.
What did he
And-
say?
And that was probably why it was a Stoney highlight. He compared it to what comes out after taking a number 2.
Why does it
But he
always?
said
why
like,
does
but he
always
said it
turn
very
into that with him?
descriptively.
Why are you
It's
all
like,
avoiding saying it?
Poop.
because
A big
I think
pile
it
of
crossed
poop.
the line. I'm gonna
Oh, okay.
look. This is. I don't think very highly of Javi at all. I think he's the worst free agent acquisition in history of Detroit. But I'm not going to go that personal.
What is it with Stoney and poop? Like every.
That's a.
Am I wrong? I had
No,
I had someone tell me that he did a topic about pooping in front of his wife.
Well, no, the topic was if your spouse is in the restroom, do you go in there and use the bathroom while they're at the sink? Right?
That was
And-
the topic.
okay.
And it was
That was
more
his- yeah.
about peeing.
Oh, okay.
And then it turned into other
then
topics.
he took
Knowing
it to
Stoney.
another level. Yeah, I think maybe the enduring memory that I will have from last week, the 5 days that Stoney was in, was the topic that came up regarding Olympics
Okay.
and playing for another team. Kyrie Irving was the genesis of this topic because he wants to pay for Team Australia in 28. He's obviously won a gold back in 16 with Team USA. He holds dual citizenship. Won't go through the whole thing, but he wants to play for Team Australia in 28. He's going through all the paperwork, and it still has to be approved. It's not like it's not a rubber stamp. And Stoney made the reference that his great grandfather is from Russia. So if he wanted to, go and play in the Olympics, that he could, compete for the Russians.
Okay.
And then it was him. I then said, well, can you speak Russian? Because we know he can speak French.
Right. Yeah.
And his rendition of reading, we don't have that, do we? No. Of reading text messages with a Russian accent. I enjoy a good laugh in the morning, as everybody knows. But Stoney, this is the one time where he was laughing so hard he couldn't breathe, and it looked like he was brought to tears.
His face was bright red. Yeah, there was his
He was
eyes
tearing
were
up.
yeah.
It was watering up.
Watery.
Strong.
It was even better than that, though.
And
I actually think the highlight was something that I've never seen before. John got absolutely crushed on Ticket Text.
Yeah.
For his opinion, we talked about,
It's a nice
do you
change of
have,
pace.
quote, your parking space? Yeah, it had to happen the week you're gone. Your parking space at work, is that your spot? And John, very adamant that people should not park in his spot in the mornings, but where it went just all
Because there's
in.
never anybody here.
But if there was somebody there, that you then revealed that you would back in and park so close to them that they might not be able to get out or make it a hard time to get out.
Like how close like I climb through the passenger side to get out type of thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. But most of the time, too, like if somebody is in that spot, it's somebody who's left their car there overnight. And generally, they're not leaving until later in the day anyway. So it's kind of all lost on everything.
But people thought you were a jerk.
Yeah, DB came up so many times. Like, I've never seen John get just attacked like that. But we all have a little bit of that kind of stuff in us out of spite, right?
Sure, yeah. You
and John, we finally found John's.
Yeah, you get to know me enough. There's something you're bound not to like.
And this is a reminder. You guys are allowed to send those texts while I'm here as well. You can send those to John all show long, 248-539-9797.
Good luck with that.
Let's get to Heather's news.
This is a really cool story. Shortly after arriving in Lakeland, Tarek Skubal walked into the clubhouse with a gift, a surprise gift for Jake Rogers. It's a gift, a gesture of appreciation, I guess you could say, of gratitude. Skubal handed him this box, and in the box was this like custom Rolex, which is very cool. It sounds like they each had matching Rolexes, perhaps, and they're engraved to commemorate the Cy Young season.
Yeah, it's a great gift.
Yeah, a really great gift. And what's cool is like, you know, he talked about like, gosh, oh my gosh, this is the most expensive thing I've ever owned, like that I wear. Should I wear it, or do you like just keep it in the box so it stays? But he's been wearing it every day. Like it's something he says, you know what, I'll wear it with my Birkenstocks, and I don't need to dress up to wear this watch. I'm going to wear it every day.
He did bring up something that was interesting because it's obviously. It's very meaningful to him.
Yes.
And I think it's a great gesture by Tarek Skubal showing appreciation for a guy that caught every single game of his Cy Young season. But he recently got engaged.
Yes.
They had engagement photos. He wore it in that.
I saw, or I heard that he wore it in his engagement photos.
He was worried that it might take away from
her
ring.
Oh, no. Nothing will ever take away from the ring. That's like, I mean, besides the couple, that's the highlight of.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're not showcasing the ring. It doesn't matter what
I wonder if he asked her at Joker Merchant Stadium.
Yeah,
after
probably.
lost to their rival.
Right there on the field. Probably. Yeah. But it's pretty cool. It's a really nice gesture. I thought it was a really sweet story for sure. The University of Arizona issued an apology after fans kind of sang out this unacceptable chant directed towards BYU. I don't even need to tell you what the chant was. You can look it up if you'd like.
Didn't this happen during the football season at some point too?
Oh, it very well could have. I'm not. Yeah. I don't remember if it did, but it could have happened. This followed their game on Saturday night. So following the game, Arizona's athletic director did release a statement and said, on behalf of the University of Arizona Athletic Department, we apologize to BYU, their student athletes, coaches, and fans. This chant is not reflective of who we are and should not have happened, which I think most people would agree with, except the people who were chanting it. Sad story. A 19-year-old woman from Dearborn Heights was killed in a shooting that police say stems from this road rage incident that took place on Friday night. So police believe that the suspect, the shooter, cut this woman off while she was driving, and she was trying to then get his license plate information, maybe to make a police report or whatever she was going to do. So she was following the suspect, and after the suspect turned down this different street, he fired some shots. One of the bullets entered the victim's vehicle through the windshield, and it fatally struck her. There was 2 female passengers in the car as well with her. They were uninjured. But following the shooting, the Detroit Police Department said there was a barricaded gunman incident related to this shooting. They do say they have 3 people in custody. Let's see. A 60-year-old man was arrested after allegedly stealing a purse and carjacking a vehicle in St. Clair Shores. Happened last Friday morning at a Kroger. There was a woman who probably was going grocery shopping, got out of her car when a man approached her and tried to grab her purse. There was this big struggle in the parking lot. A bystander intervened, and the man wasn't able to get the purse, but another bag this woman had, took off with another bag. Then he entered the driver's seat of a running vehicle, a different vehicle. There was another man in the passenger seat, but this guy took off, drove the car. The two got into a fight inside the vehicle at a gas station, and that's when the suspect was able to take off on foot, was later found inside a Walgreens next door to the gas station. Sounds like nobody was injured, which is the good news, and the guy was caught, but very terrifying for sure. And finally, it's only been 2 weeks since Taylor Swift got booed at the Super Bowl, and she is still feeling some of the effects. So she lost over 144,000 Instagram followers. This is all according to some sports gaming site, and it probably doesn't matter to her. She has 282 million followers, so she might not even notice when you lose that many. But Travis Kelce gained a lot of followers following the Super Bowl, 12,000 followers. He has 6.7 million. And what's crazy is that the two don't actually follow each other on social media. Taylor Swift doesn't follow anyone, and he doesn't follow her.
Well, Taylor Swift probably isn't the one that manages her account.
I would imagine not, but
Yeah.
But also, does she have her own private account somewhere?
Oh.
Well, I
She's
don't know.
got her own. What do they
because you're
call
that
it?
mega
Finsta.
yeah, if just
Yeah.
because you're a mega
She's got her
celebrity,
own
you can't have
burner
your
account.
own. Yeah, you'd still want to be on social media, right?
You would think. Although for her, I could see not wanting to.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
to
but
do anything with it.
Well, that's maybe why she has her own secret account.
Secret account. All right. Heather.
I don't
Richards.
know. I'd still want to be on
What would
social
her
media.
secret account name be?
The Swifties are
Taylor
on it.
Twift.
Exactly.
No one will ever know. All right, coming up next, the Red Wings split over the weekend out of the break. Not a great first impression on Saturday. They saved themselves on Sunday. One member of the show has some doubts. Is this actually a playoff team? It's 97-1.
We've got some great moments coming up in sports, and America's favorite place to watch all these is Stadium Swim. It's located at Circa Resort and Casino. You can catch all the biggest games at a viewing experience absolutely built for us, the sports fan. Chill in one of the 6 pools on 3 different levels for a perfect view of the massive 40-foot-tall high-definition screen located at Circa Resort and Casino. It's in downtown Las Vegas, and it's right there on Fremont Street. Stadium Swim. Book your spot today at circalasvegas.com.
edge of your seat. Patrick Kane saves the day. They avoid back-to-back disasters. Every point is going to matter for the Red Wings. John, out of the break, you have seen some things that have you concerned.
Yeah, you lose a 2-goal lead in the third period both times. Now, you're able to come away with a win yesterday, but some of that's because Anaheim missed an open net. And it could have been disastrous. So I know from 10 to 2 they talk about where's your 51. And my 51 is that they still make the playoffs, but I am very cautious because Ottawa's right there at 62. Now, both of them are in the playoffs if the season were to end today, and they win the tiebreaker over Columbus. But Columbus and the Wings will play Thursday and Saturday. I think Saturday is an appointment viewing because of the scene that it's going to be in, and people say, oh, well, it's in the Horseshoe. It's going to be an outdoor hockey event. It's going to be awesome. The uniforms are going to be cool. It's appointment viewing. But it's also appointment viewing because it matters so much in the point standing because Columbus is right there at 62, right behind where the Wings are. And it's a tight race. You go all the way down 4 or 5 spots, and okay, yeah, you've got 3 teams that are deadlock at 57 between the Islanders, Canadians, and Flyers, and you get yourself a 7-point lead on them. But as we saw last year, 9 points isn't safe, let alone 7.
So you say you're at 51%, but you're teetering a little bit, right? You're starting
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, I was really hoping, and we all wondered, okay, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, how are they going to make the transition from playing in the Four Nations and being back? And Lucas was back before Dylan Larkin was, but it felt like okay, they hit the ground running, right? They built themselves a lead, and when you lose third period leads, especially like that, and then you lose the first one in overtime, it does give you pause in regards to what is the possibility for this team because Steve Yzerman waited so long to make the coaching change. They dug themselves a huge hole. They didn't have to be in this position. Now, who knows if they hired Todd McLellan 2 weeks prior to that? I don't know what this world looks like, but you got to believe that the team that we're seeing from when he took over, it would have happened sooner.
2 months of Todd McLellan, roughly, at this point. And they're a much improved hockey team. They've erased their awful start. They're in the playoffs today. They took 3 or 4 points over the weekend. I still expect them to make the playoffs. And part of that confidence comes from the fact that I think they have no choice. They have to add at the trade deadline. They didn't last year, and they missed by a point. Yzerman was not urgent this last offseason and was not urgent with the coaching decision until post-Christmas. But he said at the time that they need to expedite this. He owes it to those guys in the locker room that if they are still fighting on the bubble, that he will help cement them as a playoff team. That does not mean giving up first-round picks for rentals, because I know the Yzerbots are going to bristle at that. They have an extra third. They could use an extra defenseman, an extra depth forward. And if they can find a guy who would be here long-term, yeah, they should be giving up draft picks. They should have drafted the foundation 6 drafts into the Yzer plan to where now those guys are starting to come up and make some noise, and they owe it to those guys in the dressing room to add at the deadline. So we have 2 questions here. The first is, do you still feel like this team's making the playoffs? Have doubts crept in? And I don't want to ask people if they should add at the deadline. I feel like that's an obvious answer. Yes, they should add at the deadline. Where does this team need to upgrade most at the trade deadline? 248-539-9797.
I think they need defensive help. And I mean, you could say they could upgrade really at every level. But I think defensive help, and a lot of people might say goalie. I just don't know what the answer would be at goalie.
Most teams aren't giving up a number 1 goalie at the trade deadline.
No, even if they're selling.
And Detroit has 2 number 2s, is what I would say. Talbot and Lyon, and they're just trying to piece it together. Don't have to burn one guy by playing him too much. Can keep both fresh enough, hope one gets hot, and just kind of stay afloat. They've got Kosa coming down the pipe here. I don't think they're going to make a big splash at goalie. I would be interested if they could find a number 2 center. I think that's priority 1 organizationally, deadline or offseason. But defense, there's always a guy available at the deadline. Teams are always selling off Band-Aid blue liners, and I think this team could absolutely use one. They're playing 2 rookies in their top 4, and Johansson's playing his offhand. It'd be nice to have a little bit of depth there. I mean, Seider and Edvinson can't play together because they don't have enough good defensemen. McClellan made a good decision splitting them, but it just shows you they aren't very deep there. And the other thing is when Petrie comes back, I don't want there to be a roster spot. So if they could add a defenseman, I think that helps you there too. 248-539-9797. Tom, you were at the game. I was at the game too. Sunday could have gone south in a hurry. I mean, it nearly did.
I'm pretty glass half full on this weekend. I mean, they were coming back from the break. I thought in general in the league this weekend, the teams were very erratic. There was a lot of like weird outcomes, blowouts and stuff, and I think it's just the impact.
2-week layoff.
Yeah, and then which players on your teams played in the Four Nations and which didn't. You know, they didn't get that time off. I don't really think that factored into the Wings whatsoever. But the bottom line, I'm glass half full after this weekend. They got 3 out of 4 points. You know what? Don't you take that every 2 games? I mean, that's a pretty good point percentage when it breaks down to things. So, but yeah, I mean, the bigger thing is coming up with the Blue Jackets. These are big games. Columbus is right behind them. And they play a home and home. Well, one's at Ohio Stadium Saturday, but that's going to be huge in telling. But yeah, I think you nailed it with the way you phrase it, Jim, in terms of Yzerman owes the roster some extra talent, some things that they have in need, and those players are out there. Now, you can argue what they should give up. I mean, the big one would be if they actually look back into Dylan Cousins with Buffalo because of his contract. That's a humongous franchise-altering move that I'm not in favor of right now. To me, that's something you reconsider in the summer maybe, but, I mean, he's really not performing statistically. But, I mean, a great name that's out there, one of my favorite names in hockey is Rasmus Ristolainen. I love that name. Yeah, defenseman that might fit in here, way cheaper deal.
Big body, right shot.
I just don't know if there's somebody out there at the center position that can help him. But the thing is, like, I think you need to realize they had 30 points on December 26th, and now they have 64. They've gotten 34 points in still less than 2 months. They're different than these other teams. How different? Well, I don't think you can keep playing at that level, but I do think they are above most of these teams. Like, enough's enough with the Rangers making their charge. Is Boston cooked? Who knows?
Well, and they may be. I mean, if you're starting to see whispers, they lose another defenseman on long-term IR. They're out. Do they need to do a retool? I know they would never want to admit that they're rebuilding there. But, yeah, I mean, the moment is there for the Wings. They've wrestled themselves out of this hole. They have the star power. I mean, you see what Dylan Larkin did on the world stage. Patrick Kane is still one of these closers, albeit he's not a great two-way player. He's still a closer. Lucas Raymond, first game out of the break, he scores a goal. DeBrincat's been red hot in the first 2 games out. They have the star power on this team.
But you're talking about all offense there.
I know. Mo Seider and Simon Edvinson, I'd like to get them a little more help. I get what you're saying. But I feel like this team, as constructed, should squeak in. But Yzerman's job isn't to squeak in. It's to give them a little more ammunition to be in. I don't know how many years you want to dance around whether you're going to get in or not. Like, they have to do something.
Well, don't they have to get in this year just to kind of provide somewhat of hope or taking a step? I mean, last year
you don't have to do anything to placate fans, but you do need to push your organization forward.
What's it going to hurt, though, to go out there and get what we're talking about? I mean, the Cousins thing's a completely game changer. I don't want them to do that. But the going out and getting a 4th defenseman, that's cheap. Do it. Sacrifice a pick. It ain't gonna. That pick's not going to matter for
they have
4 years.
They have 8 picks in the upcoming draft. And to your point, outside of a first-round pick, none of them are going to be here in the next 4 years. So, yeah, you got your foundation. Let's see a little progress. And I think it only makes sense for them to be buyers, albeit conservative buyers.
Sure.
But buyers nonetheless.
Yeah, just add. I mean, and you just, if you listen to what Steve Yzerman said after making the coaching change, it feels like it just rang to me that they were, having seen now what they've done since Todd McClellan has been coach, that it leads me to believe that even if it's conservative, that he will try and add something to this roster.
248-539-9797. Where are you at out of the break here? You saw 2 games. You saw them blow 2 third-period leads. You're starting to waver in the confidence, and what do you want to see them do at the deadline? It's 97-1.
If you're looking for a great place to work out, Planet Fitness is the spot you need to be. It could be tough to get outside right now, whether it's just to get out and run or out in the garage. You can have all you need in a squeaky clean, welcoming environment at Planet Fitness. And we all have different reasons why we want to go work out. Mine is I want to be able to play with the kids. You know, Lucy's 19. She plays tennis. I've got basketball, baseball, football, and who knows what the heck Teddy's going to be into. But I know I want to be on the floor playing with him and not have all the aches and pains getting up. So once you find your reason, Planet Fitness is the place to do it, and it's easy to get it done, and it's not that expensive. It's $1 down, $15 a month, gets you in the door. Every single membership, every level of membership comes with free fitness training. If you want a little bit more, you get their Black Card membership, and you get access to their Black Card spa. You get access to over 2,600 locations nationwide. There's 50 of them here in Detroit, 15 in Grand Rapids, 6 in Toledo. They've updated all of them, so they've got great equipment and a lot of variety to your workout. All you need to do is find your nearest club and join today. In club, online, or on the free Planet Fitness app. We're all strong on this planet. Planet Fitness.
Yeah, you're on the man advantage in overtime. You lose the game. Blew a 2-goal lead on Saturday. You missed the playoffs. Those are the games you look back at. And they nearly blew a 2-goal lead and lost again yesterday. So you throw those two in with a tight race, a tough schedule, and what happened a year ago. And we've asked people, do you still feel like this is a playoff team? And I do, and John does, albeit you said 51%.
I'm teetering.
Yes.
And you mentioned how important every point is. We have a heightened awareness. When you lose out because of a tiebreaker and 1 point, one single point would have put you in the playoffs last year, you look at Saturday and you think, is that 1 point going to bite you in the backside at the end of the season?
Ticket Texter says, I agree with both of you. Defense is their number one priority. I'm at 51%. They don't make it because I don't think this defense is good enough, and I don't think Yzerman makes a move. He never does. Jacob in a truck.
Well, saying he never does is not wrong, but it doesn't mean he won't.
He owes this team that. They were within a point last year. They didn't add at the deadline. At some point, you got to step up and improve. You got a good young team. You got some star power. You have to fill in the cracks. And I think they could use a defenseman if there's a number 2 center out there. Certainly, you take a big swing, but they should be looking to add. They should be trying to win. They're past the whole picks and rebuild thing. They got to start making the playoffs.
They do, and I mean, at some point, you got to be a playoff team, and you can't just be we think at the beginning of the year we expectations are being the playoffs. No, you actually have to do it.
Let's get to Dennis. We'll read more ticket text, but let's get to the phones. Dennis in Farmington Hills, good morning.
Hi. Hey, all the things you guys have talked about I think are pretty much what I would say, except Ruotsalainen might be a good ad, but I think Yzerman's got to go a little bigger here. I hear the name Owen Power out there. I hear the name Bowen Byron. They need to add an age-appropriate defenseman that's going to improve this defense. It's just not deep enough. Their third pairing will cause them a lot of problems going forward. As far as the Cousins or the secondary scoring is a major issue. I don't know how you change that right away. And if you wanted to go really big, what about Elias Peterson for Vancouver? I mean, I know this might be a pipe dream, but he's really kind of fallen off the map, but he would be a perfect fit in Detroit. It would cost you a lot of draft capital, but I think Yzerman, the one thing I want to say to you guys is Yzerman's got to do something rather big, not just a stopgap. I think it's time that he has to prove in a trade he could do something big.
I think we're all waiting for the big move, the big shakeup, the big bold decision. He gave up a first for DeBrincat, but that thing kind of fell into his lap. He's from here. He angled to come here. You'd like to see Yzerman work some of this magic that we heard all about. You know, you draft well, but you have to put the team together too, and a big trade would go a long way.
Could there be any juice for Elias Peterson?
It's interesting. He's fallen out of favor. He's a great player. He did not have a great...
I've seen his name pop up, but it's just in people saying, well, this would be a nice match. Sure, there's a lot of nice matches.
So Owen Power, seriously, he signed through 31. They just signed him. I don't see that as being reasonable. And again, I think if you're going down that crazy road, that's a summer move. You're not doing something like that at the trade deadline.
So Pettersson is on a massive deal. He signed an 8-year, $92 million deal. He'd be the highest paid wing if he was here. I believe it also comes with a no-trade clause that kicks in starting next season. So you really have to do your homework on that.
You'd be locked in.
Yeah, so you need to know, and I get he's Swedish, you got some Swedes in there, but if you have to do your homework and make sure that you wouldn't be bringing in a guy who would disrupt what you're building.
Right, so salary probably is the biggest obstacle, but you might be able to get him for less because of the future no-trade clause.
Yes.
So Byram is a free agent after this season. I'd have to look a little closer just on the fly
he's
here.
Buffalo right
if
now,
he's restricted or unrestricted, not sure.
I believe restricted. But
So anyways, he's an interesting player because he was like 4th overall or something, 3rd overall maybe even.
By Colorado.
He went right ahead of when the Wings picked, I remember. Pretty close because I remember going into that draft, we were looking at him as a potential player. He's a decent player in my mind. I probably hasn't lived up to where he's been picked, but that's a rental, and it might be a guy that if he fits in nice on a trial basis here that you re-sign, and then you've got a 24-year-old defenseman.
Again, they're building this nucleus. Seider, Edvinsson, eventually they'll get Sandin Pellikka, who everybody's raving about over in Sweden. You start to put together 3-4 of these young defensemen where you could have something here foundationally.
Yeah, to me, like a guy like Byer, I just think in the end it's a vet who costs you very little draft capital. You did something, the roster deserves it, but I don't want to see anything too big here because of what you just said. You've got to still can't block anybody, right, Jim? You missed that last week, by the way. I took a shot at some point. We were talking Tigers, and I said, well, we can't block this guy.
I'll take a text. Having some fun with that too. This one says it's probably too early to buy at the deadline. It takes 7 to 10 years. Signed, Ken Holland. So. This one says, need some addition by subtraction. Get rid of Tarasenko, free up some cap space to trade for someone else, or call someone up from Grand Rapids and use the money in the offseason. The Tarasenko thing's going to be interesting. It has not been a good fit. He is a vet. A contender may call. He signed for this year and next, but that's kind of a seller's move. You're in the playoffs. It'd have to be part of a bigger offseason or part of a bigger deadline picture if they move Tarasenko.
Yeah, if you're looking to free up some salary cap space, might be a way to do it.
Make something else possible. If they don't make it and add at the deadline, we need to have a conversation about Yzerman going forward. Texter says he's been a failure in his time here.
I think they're with Derek Lalonde as the coach. That was certainly going to be more of the conversation. Better late than never, but part of the conversation has to be he waited too long.
It will be the conversation if they fall short, especially if he didn't add at the deadline either. Like if you just kind of let them
hey,
languish.
This is, we added what we wanted to do on ice in the offseason, and his expectations were that they should have been contending for a playoff spot, and they are contending for a playoff spot.
But you notice how it's like he gives himself wiggle room. That's part of never giving us a timeline. It's part of never actually saying, I expect to make the playoffs.
Right, setting expectations, publicly setting expectations. Because you got to live up to them.
Right. And you don't always. Like the Lions came out and said the whole enchilada was Dan Campbell's quote.
Yeah.
And Brad Holmes said we were chasing the Super Bowl. They didn't win it.
And sure, it probably hurts more when you put that out there publicly and you come short. But, I mean, you got to set that standard and that expectation for your players.
Absolutely right. Texter says, add a gritty defenseman. So many times there are guys in front of the net, not playing a body, not moving guys out of the way from the net front. Someone needs to punch someone in the face. This team is too soft right now. And that's been a Red Wing opinion for 25, 30 years. I did like seeing Sherratt stick up for Rasmussen yesterday, who got hit kind of a blindside cheap shot. Look, you can always use a little more grit on the blue line.
Sure. I mean, everybody loves toughness.
Man, Wallman to the Sharks for cap relief looks even worse right now. Josh in Otisville. Yeah, some more criticism of Yzerman. This weekend was a letdown. They need to close games. I still believe McClellan will get it fixed, though, so still has them making the playoffs. And I do, too. And you do, too.
Yeah, I mean, I do trust Todd McClellan, and I trust that they will be a team that gets into the playoffs.
All right, let's talk Michigan hoops coming up next. Okay, we talked Spartans. Don't worry, guys. Your team won. If you're a Spartan fan, use the Odyssey app. Use the Rewind. We talked a lot about the game Friday night. But before they even tipped things off, Dusty May got a contract extension in his first year. Was it premature? It's 97-1. All right, John, you have a thought on this. Michigan extending Dusty May before Friday's game against the Spartans and extending him in just his first year in Ann Arbor.
My thought, in on principle, I'm not a huge supporter of extending anyone after 1 year. Because to me, you've got to show that you can do it again. That this not just a one-off. We've seen a number of different situations where, you come in the transfer portal and all of a sudden, boom, it's a stark contrast between where they were last year and this year. And a lot of that is Dusty May. Mm-hmm. Right? He's the one that recruited these players. He brought them, whether it was from FAU or he went to the portal. But can you do that again next year? Can you recruit? Now, I know that they've done well in terms of recruiting. They've got a well-ranked class coming in next year. Got to seal the deal. Got to develop those players, but you also have to continue to go to the portal. And I know, I'm not saying I don't like the extension. I think he's done an amazing job. But just for me, in my principle, I think you need to show it more than just one time.
When you said you've seen this happen before, were you thinking about Mel Tucker at Michigan State?
Well, I mean, that's one example where a guy comes in and hits the lottery with the transfer.
Kenneth Walker.
And does
wins.
Great things. And I mean, if he doesn't have the off the field issues, do I think Mel Tucker eventually, would have been a good coach? Possibly, but we don't know because there is no track record. Now, Dusty May does have a track record of doing it at other schools.
And that's the danger here. I didn't think this was some premature mistake. And I know you didn't say mistake. It made sense to me. The Indiana job's going to open. You got to protect and keep your own. Dusty May, to me, is a good coach. And I think what he did in the portal, some of it's FAU guys, but some of it's not. Danny Wolf was not a guy that he had coached previously. He identified talent in the portal. To me, that's modern college basketball. He's an X's and O's guy. He's been to a Final Four. He'll use the portal. They have flipped this thing on its head. I mean, where they were a year ago to where they are today, I don't have any doubts that the guy can coach, and I don't want someone else poaching my coach.
Sure.
So I'm going to take care of and pay, and if I have to buy him out later because he doesn't win, that's the cost of running a big boy athletic department.
Well, and it's the cost of doing business right now because there are going to be other jobs that open up, and then you have to weigh, is the job in Ann Arbor better than the job somewhere else? Long term. Well, Indiana holds a special place to him. Is the only reason I bring it up. Sure, and we talked about that when they played Indiana. It was knowing that was going to be an opening spot where he was a GA, and it was Bob Knight, and that's where he got his coaching start. He was born in the state of Indiana. He knows exactly what basketball means to that state and to that university. It's been a long time since that university has done anything special or unique or consistently won. Mm-hmm. But I just, and maybe this is old school thinking where you have a coach locked into a contract for a few years and you have the benefit of patience of saying, I want to see if he can recruit, develop, and win in more than just 1 year. It is the business of college athletics right now, whether it's football, basketball, it doesn't matter the sport. And we've seen it. We're seeing it right now. We played out in Indiana in a couple of different coaches. Tom Allen had a good year, gets a big time extension, and then nothing. And now Kirk Cignetti brings in a lot of guys from JMU, puts together a great year for Indiana. Can he do it again? Gets a big time extension.
Right, but the risk you run is if you don't extend him, someone else is going to poach him. And you used the word, we talked premature. I would say proactive. Like Michigan's trying to stay proactive here. They want to be ahead of this thing. They don't want an Indiana dream job situation where they've got a lot of money in their athletic department and they love basketball and they make an offer. Michigan would rather be proactive. They like their guy. Their guy looks good. They've got more money than it's a well-to-do university. Pay good people and let them lead your program, and Dusty May's done a great job leading them.
Right, and it's all about risk and reward. The risk if you don't give him a new contract and add a year on the end and give him some more money is that he goes somewhere else. The risk if you do is that this is a one-off and now you're going to be out some money.
But that to me is, you're one of the better funded athletic departments in all of college athletics.
And the
if the
reward-
risk is you have to spend more money, I just would rather take that risk than lose someone who I do think I identified. Like, there is a world where Dusty May took Ohio State a year ago. How would you feel? There's a world where if he doesn't get paid enough at Michigan, he'd go to Indiana. You wouldn't like that so much.
Right, and the reward is what you win, right? You get a chance to build on this year's success, and winning breeds success. Winning draws in recruits, whether it's through the portal or it's out of high school. And so, and no matter where guys go, they want to know, is my coach going to be there?
They extend him, then they lose the game. And yes, there's this question about, was it too soon to extend a coach a year in? 248-539-9797, who hasn't won the Big Ten, who hasn't done anything at Michigan yet postseason. But I've seen a lot from Dusty May. And
I think we all have.
And I don't have an issue with it. But Michigan fans can weigh in, 248-539-9797, if they have an issue with the extension so soon.
Well, I think you also have to ask the question, if you're going to extend him, what are you worried about? And it could be a job that right now we have no idea how many jobs are going to be open after the season is over. The one that we know about is Indiana.
Yeah.
And we know the connection that Dusty has. I think the other question is the Indiana job a better job than Michigan? Now, for Dusty May, it may come down to emotional reasons. And that's something that you can't necessarily compete with. But if you take emotion out of it, is the Michigan job in today's environment of college athletics a better job than the Indiana job? Basketball. Michigan has shown over the last 18 months to 2 years a commitment to, one, pay their coaches, but also to be active in NIL and the transfer portal. What has Indiana done in the last decade?
Yeah, I mean, Indiana's last Final Four, do you know how far back we got to go?
Well, Final Four?
Greg knows.
2002.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a little bit of a fluke run. They were a 5 seed. It was Mike Davis's team. I mean, Michigan's been in the last 30 years. Well, if you count the Fab Five ones, it's 4 national title games, and Indiana's been in 1 during that time. I mean, to me, I think Indiana's the blue blood that'll never truly be back. Like, I just think it's passed them by. It's been too long, and I think it's the least desirable of all the blue blood locations. Like, I just look, Dusty May might have. Look, in the end, the bottom line here is if Michigan acted prematurely, then if it goes south, they need to act swiftly, kind of like the Pistons did with Monty Williams.
They have to be proactive on both sides.
Yes, if I get it now, but there's no harm in if he fails and he's not your guy of firing him and paying him and deal with it. That's the way sports are now.
It feels for Dusty May like he is building something because he has the track record at other stops, most recently FAU, that there's something there's a foundation that you could base what he is doing in basically a half a year at Michigan. Not just an entire year, just a half a year, that there is substance to what he's doing.
Yeah, it seems like they got the right guy to me. And for me personally, if I'm a college basketball player, Michigan looks like they play fun basketball. Mm-hmm. And to me, that would be attractive. I like the style that they play, and it's offensive. And I guess in the end, you got to, down the road, one thing's going to be, does he produce pro talent potentially? But I mean, college basketball is almost getting to the point where it's like, if you really have pro potential, college basketball is a blip on your radar.
Right. I think
it's 1 year. It's
sure, everybody wants to see guys that played at their school playing in the professional ranks. It's more about winning at the college level.
With college, you have the one and done, you have the portal, you have NIL. It's year to year. The only continuity you have as a program is your head coach. It's the only thing that is consistent from 1 year to the next. I mean, college basketball, more than any other sport, I really feel like is year to year. So if you got a guy that you believe can recruit, develop, coach, X's and O's, Dusty May's 48 years old. Like, this could be the start of something that Michigan, feels like they need to invest in. So, yeah, I think you pay the guy, and maybe you're premature, but you're proactive in my mind. And if it doesn't work, take a page out of Tom Gore's playbook. Cut the check,
pay
move
the man.
on, find another guy. I mean, that's what it is at the highest level of college athletics. And Michigan should be commended for stepping up and saying, we will play the game at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at Michigan State, it didn't work out with Mel Tucker. They didn't want to lose him to LSU. Sometimes you get burned. It may get Indiana in trouble with Kirk Cignetti, but the alternative was watching him coach a different program in Indiana.
And starting over.
And Indiana going, well, that was our one time.
Yeah.
We hit lightning in a bottle and we weren't smart enough to capitalize on it. The alternative is much bleaker. 248-539-9797. End of the hour, I have gifts for the show.
Oh,
from vacation.
I'm excited.
Gifts for John, Heather, and for Gov and Greg. We'll get to that at 9:50.
If there's any writing on, hopefully we read better than Mew.
Oh, I think we will.
Oh, I think so too. I'm very confident in that.
You're confident in your ability to read? We'll find out. End of the hour, 97.1.
Hey, a personal injury attorney of any sort is, in fact, personal. Injury attorney David Femininio has dedicated his career to securing justice and maximizing recovery for those who have been injured. David is also dedicated to ensuring that you get all the medical care that you need and deserve to put your life back together after an accident. You need an attorney who's going to make it personal, and that attorney is David Femininio. So if you or someone you know has been injured, you need to tell them to call David Femininio at 855-65-CRASH, or you can always go to the website, getdavidgetpaid.com. That number again, 855-65-CRASH, or on the web at getdavidgetpaid.com.
We didn't forget about the Pistons. We'll get into it at 9:35. They've won 6 in a row, their longest win streak in 10 years. 9 or 10 years. It's been a minute. Kate Cunningham, as he put it, sizzling. John, some ticket text before we get to Heather's news. This one says, Indiana basketball is Michigan football. It will always be a better head coaching job compared to Michigan basketball.
Okay.
And that's why this person says Indiana would be knocking on Dusty's door at the end of the season if you think anything of him, you have to extend him to keep him from going to the Hoosiers. Some people may think it's premature. We brought it up. I think it was proactive. I think it's playing the game the way it is now. If he fails because it's a one-and-done fluke, you fire him and move on. But I don't think he's going to be a fluke.
No, and that's not what I'm saying.
No.
I said there's, it just this is and trust me, I get it. It's old school thinking where you want to wait until they see that they could prove that it's not just a one-off, that it is something that they are building. And for Dusty, you could say there's more to base that on because he's done it at other programs.
Went to the final
another program.
Yeah, went to the Final Four at FAU. The players he brought in, Golden is from FAU, but Danny Wolf is not. He came from Yale, using the portal, and not all of them have been hits. Donaldson's been hit and miss from Auburn, but he's using the portal. He's a basketball coach, right? Had more coaching experience than Juwan Howard did, and as someone points out, he hasn't slapped anybody yet. It's from Beerman in Oxford.
Or threatened anyone.
It goes a long way. Anyway, one other headline from the weekend. I'm not going to spend a ton of time with it. It's not local, but it is NFL football. Matthew Stafford, this saga, will he be traded from the Rams? The team has granted him permission. John, how does this play out?
I think he ends up back in L.A., playing for the Rams, probably under a new contract, one that they had a couple of years to. I don't know how much more money will be involved in it, but I think there's probably some hurt feelings in regards to it. It wasn't just a rubber stamp. Yes, we want you to still be here. It was probably taken back like, oh, wait a second here. You don't want me to still be here? Also, Cooper Kupp. We know that Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp have a great relationship, and they told Cooper Kupp that they were going to cut him or try and trade him. Now all of a sudden you get hurt feelings. I want out too.
It makes sense that he would stay. The Rams are a contender. They got a young defense. He's got a coach that he's won a Super Bowl with. I'm not sure there's much better out there. Minnesota's the one case for it. A team that won 14 games would be upgrading at quarterback. But is Minnesota putting all their chips in for a 37-year-old quarterback who maybe has two productive years left? And then the other destinations for Stafford are what? Pittsburgh, which is in the same spot as his LA team. Honestly, not even as far. They didn't win a playoff game.
Yeah.
The Giants, he wants to go to New York, or the Jets. I don't John, I think what's going to happen is they're going to test the market. Both sides are going to realize they belong together. He'll get some extension. They'll rearrange some money and give him more money, and he'll play for the Rams next year and probably the next 2 years.
I think the most likely, if he's not in LA, it'll be interesting to see what LA wants to get out of it. Because is it just simply draft capital? Are they going to try and trade? Like, what are they going to do for a quarterback next year?
Exactly.
And that's where, okay, I understand the connection with Minnesota. But is Minnesota going to part with J.J. McCarthy, who they just drafted last year?
So are you getting Sam Darnold? If you're LA?
I wouldn't think they would want Sam Darnold. I think they would want J.J.
Well, my point is if they won't give you J.J., like what does L.A. do in a world post-Stafford? Because your options are Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers. They won't have access to the top QBs at the top of the draft. I'm not really sure what their plan is. And we know McVay prioritized the quarterback position, threw Goff aside because he wanted a guy who he thought was good. I can't imagine they're going to try to take a step back at that position willingly.
I'd be shocked if it was Minnesota and Darnold went to the Rams. I don't know how the Rams could sell that to their fan base after what they did to him in the playoff game. Right. It just doesn't, I can't imagine being a fan of a team that would do that.
Right.
That's
Switching
like
quarterbacks.
Yeah. I'm surprised you both think he's not getting moved. I actually think there's too much smoke at this point.
Where's he going to go?
I'm not quite sure yet. I think Minnesota's definitely a favorite. I think the Rams are up to something that we're not seeing. And I would doubt
Could it be the Raiders? And are the Raiders willing to give up? What are they drafting? 3?
7.
So I still don't even think that's high enough.
Well,
unless they were to pair 7 with whatever they're drafting at. I don't know if it's 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there.
I think the Rams want to flip them while they can still get a first.
Okay.
That's why I think the Rams are doing this. And I think they look at their nucleus as young with Nakua and their defensive additions in the last couple of years, like that they can. I think they're trying to flip it on the fly.
So next year would be kind of a throwaway reset year.
Possibly, or they've got something up their sleeves. Like, would they ever think Aaron Rodgers for 1 year? I know. I mean, I'm just trying to think there's something.
Russell Wilson. Justin Fields.
There seems to be a dot that's just not connected here to what they're doing. But I can't believe they've let this fester this much to where I don't know if it's worth saving at this point.
Or
this is the last chance you can get a first for Stafford.
Correct.
This is it.
Or they may say, you know what? Go out in the market and you'll find out what your value really is.
Perhaps.
Calling his bluff.
Yeah.
But there have been, I mean, he's one of the guys, the copycat league that the NFL, I think that's why Aaron Rodgers, the Jets got bought into it, was that recently in the NFL, there have been Super Bowl champions that went and got old established veterans, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Super Bowls. It was worth it. And other teams tried to copycat that. I think the Broncos did that when they went after Russell Wilson.
We'll see.
Combine this week should heat up. Let's get to Heather's news.
Okay, guys, let's start with this story. Former NFL wide receiver and current NFL Network analyst Steve Smith Sr. went viral on X over the weekend after a man publicly accused him of having an affair with his wife. So the allegation surfaced like late Friday night when this guy jumped on social media to explain that his wife met Smith at work. And then he proceeded to post some very, very graphic text messages between the two of them that prove that they've been having an affair. And then this guy also shared a video of him calling Smith, like showing that he's calling you see the phone number and Smith appears to say, I'm sorry. Who knows who he's really talking to, if it's him or not. But like when you go through and look at what's going down, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And it's very,
the
very
text
detailed.
message, you can't even give it a sample of them because
no, I cannot.
They are very graphic.
Very. And there's some photos in these text messages as well. So it's like, because you could be like, well, was it really him? But then there's photos that show it's really him.
Yeah, it's also odd that this guy chose to show this to everybody.
Well,
Look, my wife's cheating on me.
Well,
but he's angry. He's
I
upset.
guess he's jilted.
Just scorned man.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Hell hath no fury.
Tagging everyone, all Smith's sponsors, like tagged Yeti and TaylorMade, and because he's mad. Like, let's get this guy in trouble.
Well,
and he could be.
I don't know. I mean, I don't.
With his wife, for sure, who he's been married to for about 25 years.
That's why he posted it. All right. You blew up my marriage. I'm going to blow yours up.
Yeah. Yep. Woo. Switching gears here. Kind of a sad story for sure. A passenger died in a crash Sunday night on I-94 in Detroit after she allegedly grabbed the steering wheel during an argument she was having with the driver. So according to police, there was this 27-year-old man who was driving. He got into this argument with his passenger, a 28-year-old woman. During the argument, she was also apparently drinking, grabbed the wheel, caused the driver to lose control. The car went across all the lanes and then hit a concrete wall. She was not wearing a seatbelt, died at the hospital. They also say the two were a couple. Their 1 and 2-year-old.
Oh no.
Was in the back seat. Properly restrained. They were in car seats, but they were treated at the hospital as well. The driver, also not wearing a seatbelt, was not injured, but police say everything is still under investigation, but they do not believe the driver was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. What a tragic story.
Yeah.
So sad. You might have seen this video. This went viral as well over the weekend. This wild fight broke out at the Atlanta airport.
I did.
Oh my gosh, this fight. It was on February 19th. It was at the Spirit Airlines gate, and it appears to show two groups of men and women just punching and kicking each other. And there's one woman who like climbs over a row of airport seats and just starts launching kicks into the crowd. People are comparing it to Braveheart. Like that, it's just so dramatic. And other people who were there say, I have no idea what started the fight. Like nobody knew what was going on. And apparently it kind of like dismantled before police arrived, but it's going viral as well.
Yeah.
So check that one out.
It's wild.
Yeah. Earlier this month, some thieves in France stole a man's backpack, and it also included the guy's wallet as well. And they used his credit card to buy some cigarettes and also some scratch off lottery tickets. Okay. And they hit it big on one scratch off, won over $500,000. But nobody has claimed the prize because it's basically like they would out themselves. Like,
Yeah.
we're the ones who stole your credit card and used it to buy this lottery ticket.
Can he claim it?
Well, now, I guess not. I think you have to have the ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now the owner of the backpack and the wallet has a deal for the criminals. He's saying, hey, guess what? I'll split the winnings with you if you give me back my belongings, and I won't press charges.
Seems like a good deal.
So it seems like a great deal. So no word yet. I guess they only have 30 days to follow through with the deal if they're going to take it or not.
This feels like a movie plot.
Doesn't
That's
it?
great.
Right? Pretty crazy. One more crazy one about winning money. There's a guy in Pennsylvania won $57,000 at a casino earlier this month, but he's not going to get any of the money because he was banned from the casino by himself. So Philadelphia has a self-exclusion list, I guess, where people with gambling issues can block themselves from betting, and they can like voluntarily block themselves from casinos, from online gaming, from fantasy sports. And this guy blocked himself forever. Like you can block yourselves for a month or a year or forever. So not only is he not getting his money, but he also got ticketed for trespassing because he's banned.
He
from the
banned
casinos.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a problem when you ban yourself and then you actually go back and win, but you can't win because you banned yourself.
Exactly.
It's Heather with the news. It's 97.1. Moran Chevrolet is officially Michigan's #1 Chevy dealer for 2024. It's huge news, and they're celebrating with awesome deals all month long. So get off the sidelines and get into the game at Moran Chevrolet, where you can lease a 2025 Trax for $249 a month. That's a 39-month lease with only $999 down. Moran Chevrolet, where you always get the best price, period. Score your best deal. Shop online, moranexpress.com. Super easy, couple clicks. Or you want to go in person, see those deals, drive the cars. They're on Gratiot, north of 15 Mile in Clinton Township. Chevrolet, together, let's drive. Pistons have won 6 games in a row. They're in the 6th seed right now. Today's show's been kind of a potpourri. We've hit on a lot. If you're a big Red Wing fan, use the Odyssey app, use the Rewind. You want to talk Michigan State hoops? We discussed it earlier. You want to hear about how John's not tough enough to swim in the ocean? That's on the Rewind as well.
Yes, or just somebody that knows their limits.
Speaking of the waters that I was swimming in, I did bring back some gifts for you guys. We'll do that coming up at 9:50.
Edge of my seat.
All right.
That was thoughtful, I think.
You don't know what the gifts are?
I don't.
We'll
We'll
see.
see.
Like, this is
Yeah.
a stupid gift. You can tell me if you don't like